and welcome to Lord of Last Hearth, aka Tony, and I'm here with some special guests to talk about Stranger Things Season 2. We are having basically three streams, if maybe might have to come down to four, but we're pretty much going to break it down into three segments. We're doing first three episodes tonight on my channel, and then we will talk amongst each other and see who's going to get the next two. But tonight we are talking about episode 1, 2, and 3 of Stranger Things Season 2. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of what the stream is going to be, I want to introduce my special guest tonight with me. We will start off with BBM. BBM, tell everybody who you are.
Hey y'all, BrokeBlack94 here. I got my Stranger Things Funko Pops, 11 from Season 2, Max Funko Pop. Even got freaking Dustin and Hopper with his biohazard suit. Let's get to it.
Cool. Alicia.
What goes on YouTube, Lord Commander AK here. I'm just here to talk about this awesome bloody show. And I'm not going to waste more time on the intro than that. Let's get started.
LavLav, let them know who you are.
Hey guys, thank you Tony for having me on. And since I had to compete with BBM and his Funko Pops, I've got my upside down necklace, I've got my Friends Don't Lie bracelet, I got my waffle earrings, and I got my Christmas light shirts. So let's get to it.
Cool. Yeah,
10 points for Slytherin.
I had to steal BBM's meme the other day with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Will with the upside down. That thing was funny. Did you see that, Alicia?
Which one? Oh, with Will Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally stole that and put it up on Facebook.
So did I. Okay. Yeah, tonight we're gonna go episode by episode, pretty much break them down and give our opinions on what we felt and how we felt the season was when it comes to these first three episodes. Now, with the first episode 1 is titled Mad Max, and the synopsis for episode 1 is: as the town preps for Halloween, a high-scoring rival shakes things up in the arcade, and a skeptical Hopper inspects a field of rotten pumpkins. Will keeps experiencing visions and episodes. Now, to start off, how did you guys feel about episode 1 at the start? You know how with every episode it has pretty much like a prologue to the episode before they do the main show title. Starting off with BBM, how did you think the show started off with its first so-called like prologue into the first episode into the second season?
Well, it did perfectly. For starters, I wanted to know like how long it was going to be since the ending of season 1, and they kind of answered that, saying it was like basically almost a year based on what the doctor was talking about with Will and his like episodes. That, along with it was just introducing us to the new character of the group, Max, as well, saying like she's a gamer, she's basically new to town and whatnot. So it's like, okay, so we know who that person is. We know like what time we're dealing with, and they did it perfectly. Along with introducing, Kali in the first few minutes of season 1, episode 1,
right?
Episode 2, excuse me.
Yeah. So, Alicia, did you feel the same? How did you feel about how they opened up with season 2?
I thought it was a pretty strong opening. It gave me some more questions than it answered, but they filled it out pretty well. And I thought, the introduction of Max was probably done the best way they could do it. How else would the boys really have her on their radar unless it was on some nerd shit?
Right.
And I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I felt the same way. But the beginning, how they started off with this new group of people. Bobby, what did you think? You agree with BBM and Alicia how this started off pretty strong?
Am I the only one? And I'm gonna give myself away here. I saw it on the Fire Stick, so when it started and I was watching it, I thought, did they download the wrong thing? Like, am I watching the wrong show? And then as it went, and then when I saw her break down the thing, and then the blood and the number 9, I was like, oh, okay. Yes, this is what we're doing. I was like halfway there because I was like, okay, it says 84, so it's in the 80s. But maybe I was sick and being a bimbo, but I thought I was watching the wrong show for the first couple of minutes. But once they kind of brought it like to a close with the whole nosebleed, I was sold on it. And I was like, okay, she's number 9. That means there's a 10, there's a 1 through 8. So, I mean, I thought it was a really good opening. It got me invested.
She's actually number 8.
8. Sorry.
Yeah, she said that. She said 8, unless she said another number.
She said 9.
9.
Yeah, I did say 9.
Oh.
Pay attention, BBM.
I heard an 8. I was thinking, as you said 9.
As
I
far
was trying
as
to help
Mad
you,
Max,
Live.
isn't she like every pubescent teenage boy's like dream? She's a gamer and she's badass. She's a skateboarder. She's tough. I mean, I don't know. That's what I always pictured preteen boys to want, but I could be wrong. You guys have to tell me that.
Yeah, with the first little like intro into the first episode, like I had the kind of the same feeling. I didn't think it was like something different, but I was like, what? Who are these people? Because I really thought they were going to start off like where it left off, maybe showing like they do in later episodes how like the journey that 11 was on, being by herself in the woods. And I thought it was going to start with that. And like, I seen these older kids and I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I literally I checked to see, make sure it was the right thing I was watching. And then I seen the cops that were chasing him. I noticed it said Pittsburgh on the cop car. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And then they did a good job with not revealing who 8 was until the very end of that prologue where the girl's like, her name's like Callie. They call her Callie. And they're like, do something, Callie, and she does that thing, she's like, boom, or something, grabs, like, squeezes her hand, and you see, like, the overpass, like, fall in front of the cop, but, like, her ability, I think, is cool because it shows her abilities are a little different, and I think that's pretty neat how, like, I guess she can make them see what she wanted them to see, and, like, she could even do it to 11, which I thought was pretty cool, like, I thought, like, maybe, that they'd all be this kind of like telepath, like 11 word, but that opens up, I think, into the second question I was going to ask everybody. How did you feel about the way they introduced 8? Like, do you think that this was just for season 2? Do you think we'll get a little more 8, or will it open? Because it really opens up, like you said, it leaves more questions than answers, which I think in a second season of a show that's this good, like I like that there's a lot of questions because we still have lots. I think even if there's only a couple more seasons, I know like the Duffer Brothers don't like making a bunch of filler episodes and filler seasons to get to a point, an end point. So even if there's only a couple more seasons left, do you think they're gonna expand on the whole whatever this CIA thing they're doing, like what they do at 11 and 8? Do you think it's going to expand more as the seasons go on, BBM?
Well, for starters, just like how you and Lav were saying it, like they introduced a Kali as we didn't know who she was. They just showed us this car chase, and next thing you know, we see her say boom. I thought that she was like just like freaking 11, but she has her different powers. And I thought, okay, so they're going to have more numbers to it. Maybe are they still alive, or some is just still alive, or some still being captured somewhere else? But then I was even more surprised that later on in the season, we're going to get an episode that was devoted to Kali. So I was like, oh, I thought they were just like going to tease us with this. And then when season 3 or 4, they're going to introduce more with the character. But no, they actually gave us some backstory on it. But other than that, I think it was like a good setup for it.
What about you, Lavi? How do you think they did with number 8? Do you have the feeling coming into this, what they did show us, that they're going to expand more on it? Or do you think it was just, a means for, the whole plot of 11? And do you think they maybe won't ever go into another one through whoever many they have? How do you think they're going to expand on that whole, whatever the experimenting they're doing with these kids?
Well, I think it would be really strange if they didn't. Then it would just be kind of a bunch of useless crap in the middle of our season 2, or like beginning our season 2 and then in the middle of it. I mean, they're telling us who this girl is. They're giving us a history with 11 when they're children in the facility. So they're giving us a connection with 11's mom. So I honestly, I cannot see them not expanding on this somehow. And then since this whole like 11 Collie thing seems to be kind of like a tribute to Stephen King's Firestarter, I really feel like they're gonna give us a little bit more. They might not explain or go into make the whole story about the CIA thing, but I think they're definitely gonna give us at least more backstory and some sort of like conclusion to it. I think that's my opinion anyway.
Cool, cool. Would you feel, Alicia? Do you feel the same as Lavi? Do you think it'd be kind of pointless to not have them go deeper into that?
I'm sorry. My roommate's over here getting mad at her game. Okay. I like I said before, I liked the opening because I like seeing worlds expand and draw in more. And Aaron on Professor Thorgy, he's a good channel. Y'all check him out if you're into nerd shit. He thought that the whole thing with Kali was almost like the Duffer Brothers saying, this is the intro for our new spinoff, which it could be. But for me, it had a lot of callbacks to the show Dark Angel that was out a while back with Jessica Alba. She was another kid that, you know, government scientists experimented on her mom, so she was born with extracurricular powers. And as that show went on, we saw some of the other kids that were involved in that too, and the world just got bigger and bigger until we found out who this organization was and what they are. And I really like how they did that with Callie. At first, when I saw it was in Pittsburgh, I had a notion that maybe they were showing a flashback of like Hopper's time in the big city. But then when I got more into it, I was like, no, okay, this is something else. And then they showed that number 8 on her hand, and I thought that was really freaking awesome. So I love seeing worlds expand. So I was with that opening.
Yeah, I had the same feeling when I seen the city and the cops. I thought that's the same thing. I thought they were doing like a flashback to Hopper, because I think they said he used to work in Indianapolis. Was it? I think the city, when he said he was a city cop. Yeah.
I don't remember. It might have been.
I think it was either that or Chicago or something. But anyways, yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought it was a flashback at first until you seen like it was Pittsburgh, and then yeah. But I thought it was cool to introduce, you know, another one of these kids that are, you know, used as CIA weapons, you know. And I guess we're getting to another character that they introduced this season, and Maxine, aka Mad Max. I mean, right off the bat, how'd you guys feel about her as a new character? Did you like her? Did you you know, were you to the point where you're like, you know, you could do with her or without her? How'd y'all feel about it? I'll start with Lobby this time.
Sorry guys, I'm so awkward. I'm trying to do this on my phone and it just doesn't want to cooperate with me.
You're cool.
I love Max. She's awesome. She's a chick I would be friends with. I see why the guys want to be friends with her. She's cool, she's confident, and you don't like, if just seeing her superficially, you wouldn't know all the crap she's dealing with at home with her psycho brother. And you know, she's just like a cool chick to hang out with. So I liked her. I see the appeal. I think they did a good job in kind of getting her in without forcing a new character on us. So I give it a 10. I love Max. I can't wait to see more of her next season.
What about you, Alicia? How'd you feel about Maxine?
I really like Max. I mean, she is a character that came on the scene with really not a whole lot of words. You know, we got to know stuff about her through other people before she really started talking, and I thought that was pretty awesome. You know, she was clued in enough, and I guess coming from the big city, she would be, that these kids are just walking around following her for some damn reason, and she doesn't necessarily confront them. She's just like, yeah, okay, what the fuck, stop following me, weirdos. You're being mad stalkerish and mad creepish. And I don't think they knew that, because they're always in their own little bubble, so they can't really tell when things are awkward, except once they started actually dealing with her. I think a lot of times, like the interactions with her, Lucas and Dustin, at some point in time, if you look, Lucas is looking at Dustin like, bruh, just stop. I'm gonna need to talk to this girl by myself, I see, because you're on that fuck shit, and we need that to stop, because she's not gonna like either one of us if you keep going.
Yeah, I like that he when they first were seeing her and her being this new person at their school, and this also kind of like goes into another point with Dustin, how we finally seen him with his new chompers, and he's like, how can she resist these pearly whites? Oh, I was like, oh my god!
Like, who told you that was a good idea, Dustin? No one wants to see that.
You can tell, like, he ain't got no kind of like older brother or manly like figure at home to tell him, like, this ain't cool. You know what I mean? Like,
he is the epitome of cringeworthy
right?
child.
You guys know that was his mom. His mom was telling him, look at my baby with me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was all mom.
Yeah, Lucas was like, yo, dude, I don't know who told you that.
You know what? What's his name? Shit, Dustin. He almost reminds me of like an extremely watered down Howard from Big Bang Theory, because he always hung out with his mom the most, and that influenced him a lot more than it should have. And we see the same thing with Dustin. Like, this is the one credit I will give to Steve. You needed an older brother figure. And surprisingly, like Steve said, he's a shit boyfriend, but he's a good babysitter. He actually did pretty solid by Dustin. So that's the one ray of sunshine I'll give for that character. Otherwise, fuck Steve.
Yeah, I know, like, it's later on in the season, but I did appreciate that. Like, it was almost, they did a really good job, I think, the Duffer Brothers with, you know, because you see Nancy's kind of, you know, going away from Steve, and she's, you know, getting in. What's Will's brother's name? Josh. What is it? Jonathan. Yeah, and I liked how they just didn't have, because he would seem like this, like, really awkward third wheel if they didn't give him Dustin to be like, you know what I mean? Like, now he's not Nancy's boy, so now, you know, it gave him a purpose in the season.
Yo, hold on. Ion Trone, loyal son of House Troll, in the chat's talking about Dustin is Hot Pie's grandson. Stop the madness, Ion. Stop it.
Ion is crazy. I forgot. BBN, how did you feel pretty much the same about Max? Do you think it was a good introduction to a new character?
Good introduction, but I was not on the Max train when I found out that they even like going to introduce Max into this, like a new female. It's like, okay, you're just going to do this. Introduce a new female.
Oh, were you pulling a mic?
No.
I don't like you.
A new female just until like when 11 comes in, they basically just drop her off and just forget about her. I didn't want them to do that. Or introduce a love triangle with her and Mike until 11, because I thought it was going to do something like that until you told me it was going to do like a love triangle between, you know, Max, freaking Dustin, and then Lucas. But then later on, as it like that love triangle really wasn't in effect. So now I'm just hoping in season 3 she can actually be useful. That's all I'm saying. For the first 3 episodes, okay, she was entertaining though. You know, and it's granted her dickhead brother Billy needed to die. Hopefully he may die later on. His name does begin with a B, so the odds are stacked against him.
Well, explain that.
Yeah, if your name begins with a B, you die. Barbara.
Okay.
And then later on, another guy begins with a B, dies.
Okay, I see it.
I kind of feel the same way as you, BBM, when they introduced Max. Like, I didn't know really going into the show like so much about her character, but when they introduced her, I started to have this feeling, okay, because they didn't start off the little before credits title prologue thing with 11. I was like, okay, this is a sign that they're probably not going to bring 11 into the season right away because she was going to be taking up. And like you too, I was kind of, pessimistic about it too. I was like, come on, please don't have this as like the girl that takes 11's spot and there's like this animosity kind of thing. And it happened a little bit, but it was mainly with Mike. And I kind of understand where Mike was coming from. It was like he might. But the thing is, he kind of did the same thing with 11 to the boys. Like they had the same feeling that he was trying to replace them with her. And then while she was gone, they tried to replace her with Max, even though that wasn't the case. But I could kind of understand. But I guess that segues to the next one about her brother, Billy. Now, I don't know if it was just me. Did anybody else think that was Zac Efron at first? I thought it was Zac Efron.
My roommate asked me the same damn question. She's like, ain't that Zac Efron? No, damn it, that is not Zac Efron. Well, it looks like him. Are you sure? Damn it, you are talking to the nerd of nerds in your friends group. That is not Zac Efron. He was the Red Ranger, and he was a lot cooler in that role than on here, because seriously, fuck Billy.
Yeah, like oh my God, like he did a really good job though at making you not like him. It was like on some Lena Headey, Cersei level shit, like doing such a good job that make you hate somebody. And I'm usually really open. Like I know, like they do things in shows to make the acting they do that acts to make you feel a type of way about some way about somebody. And he really did a good job as that like dickhead. Like he was from cool California and he couldn't stand being in rural Indiana, and like he really played that to a T. I was kind of worried at first when Max was talking, or he talked to her about Lucas, and he was like, we don't do those type of people. And I thought, like, what is he, racist or something? At first, like, I thought that was like the vibe they were trying to give because he was just talking about Lucas. And I was like, oh, is he really going to be like you're coming from liberal California? I know it's the
That's
80s.
exactly what I was about to say. Coming from where you come from, bruh, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Right. That's how I thought it was about.
It really reminded me of that bully in It. That one bully.
Yeah, that's what I was saying in chat. He lightweight reminds me of Patrick. Lav, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the one that was given gobbies to what's his nuts, right?
Yeah, that's Patrick.
Yeah, that's what he reminded me of, like that. And this is a bit of a jump ahead, but this is the context for it, is that shower scene where he was in there fucking with Steve. That whole thing just kind of had rainbows like spewing from my eyeballs the whole time. But that's just my opinion.
No, I felt the same way. He kind of was throwing the glances down a little. I thought he was,
I have a question, Tony, though. He was racist, right? That's how I took.
That's what I got from it.
That's how I took it too. But like, I was waiting for him to, go further with it, because it was like, he was like, we don't mess with that and it was the way he came off was like, we don't mess with those people kind of like tone. And I was like, is he really like? And that's what like Alicia said. Like, you guys are from California. It's pretty liberal from what I've heard. I've never been there. But you know what I mean? But like, even for it being 1984. I would think it's still, be pretty, similar to, modern time, and it's like, I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't, unless I'm, wrong. Did he ever go any further on Lucas? No. He wasn't brought up again, right?
They never really fully explained it. They just, it gave you the gist of that's what it might be. It wasn't, It wasn't ever confirmed though.
Yeah. I mean, but my thinking, that's what I thought it was. Like right as soon as he said how he had the way he said it and how he said it, it wasn't like we don't mess with any of those boys. Like he was only Lucas, and like I can understand a little bit if he was like trying to be the big brother, not wanting. I have a little sister, and like nobody's ever good enough for him, kind of thing. But it wasn't like that. It was more like we don't do those people. And that's how I was like, what the hell?
See, I'm thinking that there's something deeper with whatever happened in LA to how he feels about Max. Like whatever it is, he blames her. And tinfoil, maybe she saw him with someone in the Rainbow Persuasion, and she talked about it. Dad flipped the lid and they had to move because Pop seems like a really proud asshole. So he would just get the fuck out of Dodge to keep from hearing whispers about his son and whatnots. But I don't know. We'll have to see what that backstory really says.
That goes into another.
I instantly got like a Once Upon a Time, Regina and Snow White thing. It's like, did you know Max?
Why are you hating so hard? What really fucking happened to make you really want to go after this girl so hard? And then when we found out what it was, well, yeah, you kind of wanted to punch Snow in the throat. Her and Charming are not as goody-goody as they proclaim to be.
Well, that kind of goes into another point where, like, what we're just saying, how I think and I thought the same thing. There was just something else to their backstory that they either haven't gotten into yet, and hopefully they'll get, because you realize at first you don't realize, like, it's not set in stone that they're not even siblings or step siblings, and then like you said, like he really came off way too strong with the manliness, like he was trying to overcompensate for something. You know what I mean? Like there's people that are dickheads and stuff, but he really came off like he wanted to come out as this macho man to try to keep whatever he was really feeling down. That was the first thing that came to mind, especially at that party they're at. And it's like, whoa, with the shirt open and off, and he's sitting there grunting and shit. And it just, that was the first thing in my head. But, like, do you guys think that there are, like, if you do think, what is it that you want to theorize on? I mean, get as tinfoil as you want. What do you think is going to be the backstory?
Tony, hold on real quick. Lav, you wanted to interject something?
Well, I was just going to say, doesn't his dad call him, like, a fag or something like that?
I think he did.
When he's like fixing his hair, he tells him like, "Oh, you spent like an hour in front of the mirror, like sort of."
Yeah,
I don't know. I'll have to rewatch that. If he did, that just confirms my suspicions even more.
Yeah, he says something about him standing in front of it too long, like a faggot or something.
Yeah. I just wanted to clear that up because I was like, I'm pretty sure somebody called him that, and he looked really upset at being called that, more than just. It's the 80s and that's an insult.
Oh, yeah.
And it was his dad, so that kind of leans into that theory for me.
Yeah, he started crying right after they left the room. Like, at first, he wasn't trying to show too much like it was Bob, but he literally shed tears, and it could be just, his dad just seemed like a grade A dickhead. He might, it could be that. It's kind of pointing towards that, like we were talking about, but it could just be, he puts all, like, when Max is out and they don't know where Max is at, he, like, pretty much tells him, you need to find her, don't come back without her. And, but I do think it's pointing in that direction, though, just by the overtones with the dad and everything. But I was saying, like, if let's theorize a little bit on what we think is going to be up with this family. Do you guys think that I'm gonna give my first thing about this family? I thought maybe his dad was something to do with the CIA experiment thing, because the way it kind of came off was like, the reason and why would they be going from California to this exact town, Hawkins? So I thought maybe his dad, and then his dad, even the haircut, the way he came off, like he was a military kind of person. What did you guys do? You guys think what is going to be the outcome of this family, if you could theorize but knowing what we know up to this point? Go to Alicia.
I'm sorry, I was in the chat. Please repeat the question.
What do you think? What is your theory on what's with the Max and Billy's family? Why do you think that they left, California to come to Hawkins, Indiana? Do you think her dad, like I said with me, I think her dad maybe is some kind of military branch. Maybe he has something to do with this, the energy building that we haven't found out yet. What do you think it is with their family? Why they're in Hawkins?
I don't know. I didn't get a vibe of his dad being involved with anything with the energy company or the CIA, but I do question where the hell they were during these first couple of weeks of school, because like Billy said, when his dad had confronted him that time when he got sent to look for Max, he said he's been watching out for her all week. So were they gone during that week, or like what was happening? And as far as why they moved to that town, it's hard to say. There's really not a whole lot of Easter eggs or anything dropped to point in any one direction, except that Billy blames Max and Max blames Billy. So I don't know. It's really hard to pinpoint what it could be.
What about you, BBM? Do you think there's something up with their family that's going to end up coming out, or you just think just, luck of the draw that they, might just not be as big as, well, what I think or other people might think for their reasoning to moving to little old Hawkins, Indiana?
But for me, I think they just simply moved there because, again, it's like a new family. So they're like, let's start fresh. So they just move down to Hawkins. That's my idea of it. Like, I think it's just the luck of the draw that they even had a scene with the parents. Because first I'm like, okay, the parents are not really picking up Max because, Billy goes to school there. That's one thing. And even then, I was like, to what, the second or the very last episode we actually saw them. So I was like, okay, good. They have like a little bit of screen time. But I think like the only parents besides maybe Nancy's parents that we do see a little bit more than the others, it's like the only parents where we can have screen time. But you did bring up like the military haircut style and stuff or science. So it's like, it could be possible. If anything, they're kind of just like hinting at us that it could be something with Mac's family moving.
In the chat room, real quick, Omen, I think, was just saying, Dad existed simply to establish some backstory or rationale for Billy's character. Yeah. And it really could be that simple, but we're nerds, so we have to toss in the tinfoil like everywhere we go. It's
right. No, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, you got a very good point. Sometimes I look into stuff too much. It might not really be anything but, like you said, just to show that, dominating asshole dad. And like you said, it could have maybe came to Hawkins, like you said, about the whole, maybe something happened where they're from, and maybe he thinks he takes them out of that liberal setting and puts them in the rural Republican kind of, not to get political, but that rural area where, a lot of you ain't going to really come across that kind of thing as much as you probably would out in the beach in California. But I don't know. How about you, Lobby? Did you think there was anything to the parents, or you just think, they're just coincidence? They're just in Hawkins, nothing, incognito or CIA involved with the family?
It never occurred to me that he might be working with that organization or anything. What I always thought is that it had to do with Max's mother, his dad marrying the mom. And maybe, I don't know, they had drama with the ex or something back in California. And so they decided to move here. And so Billy blames Max just because she's like an extension of her mother. My dad married your mom and now we're here. It's your fault, that's how I took it. But maybe I'm just kind of being simplistic about it. But I do agree with, I can't see the chats, guys, so I'm sorry. But I think Alicia said Omen. Omen?
Yeah.
I agree that I think that whole dynamic is just to set up why Billy is the way he is and why Billy treats Max the way he does. So I think any drama with the parents is really just to be a backstory for why Billy's such a shithead,
Oh, no, that's definitely plausible. What did you guys think about, moving on a little bit in the episode, what did you guys think about the pumpkin patch? Like, I know we find out later on but what was your first thoughts on why these pumpkins and the crops all together were dying? I'll start with you, Lavi, this time. What did you think about when you first saw that pumpkin patch and your thoughts?
Okay. Well, considering how Will kept going back and forth from the upside down to the real world, kind of like in his mind, to me, I always took it as the upside down was kind of like seeping into our reality or our dimension. I'm not really sure what the upside down is, but that's how I took it. And so when I saw the pumpkins, I kind of thought the same thing, like it's seeping up or in or whatever. And I think that's what Hopper thought too. And he didn't buy when they tried to tell him like, yeah, we'll check it out, but it's probably nothing. So I wasn't thinking, you know, like the whole tunnel thing that was happening. But that's how I took it. I was like, if it's seeping in through Will, then it's probably seeping in through the earth too. Just thoughts when I saw it.
What about you, BBM? Do you feel the same, or do you think it was something different?
I just knew it had to do something with the upside down. It's like, if anything remotely weird, just blame it on the upside down, or just blame it on freaking Lucas after shits and giggles, though. But like, immediately when I saw like the pumpkins were like messed up, I'm like, wait a minute. This kind of reminds me of Sleepy Hollow when Dagobah like picked up some like fruit, whatever, and began to like decompose and stuff. I'm like, you know what? Something definitely has to be wrong, though. But I didn't get the connection that whoever was like the upside down is messing with Will, is also messing with the earth. I didn't think it would extend to that point.
Yeah, me either, BB. Like, I didn't, at first, I wasn't thinking, you know, because what was happening to Will. Like, I thought maybe that it was not so much like Lav was saying. Like, I didn't think it was the tunnel, like, thing that we ended up finding out about.
I
but
thought it was like some creature that also possibly came out of the upside down, is now just like hiding in the woods, or like, it's not the woods, the crops, or something of that magnitude. That's what I thought of it.
Right, yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, I thought it was either something that got out that, you know, or it was somehow leaking into the real world. Not so much coming up from underground, but like how they're messing too much with that portal that they had in the energy building, and that they were messing with it so much that it was starting to, you know, come into the real world. How about you, Alicia? Did you pretty much have the same feeling, or did you have different thoughts on why these crops are failing?
Once we saw the crop started failing, you know, it was automatic thought that something was wrong with the ground. And then once, you know, Hopper really started investigating, it kind of made a call back to why they included Dig Dug into the plot, because that's what it looked like. Someone was playing a huge game of Dig Dug and nobody knew. And it was also a bit of a callback to Tremors that, you know, a couple people are saying in the chat, with how those little bastards were crawling through underground and whatnot. And they basically had that same tunnel network to, you know, to go through and do whatever it was they needed to do.
Alicia, or you just made me think of something, and maybe I'm just being a nerd and overthinking stuff, but the way the Demogorgons act and that huge monster, we know that they've been working through these nerdy teenage boys, and do you think that's where they're getting their ideas? Like, these kids have these video games in their heads, and so they're like, these monsters, since they're like moving through their head, are getting ideas of how to move through this world through that.
That is an interesting thought. I had not thought about that before, but I like it. I mean, and if you look at the Duffer Brothers, they look like the most 80s nostalgic brothers ever. So they're drawing on their childhoods, I think, and putting it all to D&D. Like, I watched a video earlier today, I forgot what channel it was on, but they were theorizing how the game of Dungeons and Dragons is predicting, or could predict, what we see in season 3. And that's a very interesting observation there, because we have kids that are dealing with this, like the Goonies. They're the forefront of solving the mystery, so they have to put everything into a realm that they understand, and they know D&D like the back of their hands. So everything that they see, that's how they're plotting it, and as we've seen, it works. So I like it. I think that's pretty sound. Y'all heard it here first. If that comes out, credit LavLav.
Yeah, that was a good one. I didn't think about that either, but that's really makes you think even more. The last part of this episode we're gonna do pretty much was the when the last scene of the episode.
Oh, wait. Hey, Tony, real quick. I'm sorry. I just had a Doctor Who thought, like with the silence. You know how it says that, you know, humans, even though they don't know that they're seeing the silent creatures, that they mimic everything about them. So what if the Mind Flayer, to what LavLav was just saying, is mimicking things from like the strongest willpowers that are in this town that they have. So everything's going through these kids through D&D. So it's mimicking that to get into the real world. Extreme tinfoil, but that's my thought.
No, I mean, it's a good point because even if you look at the first season, like when they're first playing D&D in the very first part of it, and it pops out the Demogorgon, like that ends up happening to be coincidentally like the monster that was the main, protagonist in the in the season. So I mean, it's really not that tinfoil, to be honest. I mean, we really don't know, but that is a good point to watch out for. But yeah, the last scene of the episode is where we all get to see, that we pretty much realize that 11 is where she's at. Because you see Hopper, he parks and goes through the woods. You see like steps over little booby traps and stuff. You see him go into this cabin. So first he knocks, has like a special knock, and then he goes in, and you see that there was Eggos on a plate on the table. And like how did you guys feel about knowing that, okay, they were revealing 11 that early? Like, I honestly didn't think it was going to be that early into the season. Like, even with the Duffer Brothers not liking to do a lot of filler and stuff to drag stuff on, I still thought maybe we'd get to like the third episode before we actually seen or even heard where she's at. So how did you guys feel about that, knowing that 11 was making an introduction as early as she was? What about, we'll start with you, Alicia.
I liked it. I'm glad they didn't wait, because that was probably my main focus, was what happened with 11. Like, we know what happened with everybody else. They were all, quote unquote safe back in their homes, but 11 just completely disappeared. And that was the biggest mystery I was looking for. Where is she? What happened to her? Is she hurt? Is she still alive? How's she going to get back to the real world? And they answered that in one episode, and I thought that was awesome.
What about you, BBM?
Yes, sir. Could you please repeat that? The question.
No, how do you feel about how the show, how they went about introduce or bringing back 11? How like in the last scene of episode 1.
Just like you, how you said like episode 3, we were gonna get 11. That's how I thought. I thought they were just gonna like push it to episode 3 and then bam, we're gonna have 11. But just having her as the cliffhanger, like episode 1, and then even continuing it in episode 2 was shocking. I thought that in a sense that they put 11 as the big character, that they made like just not cut her out completely, but just like not even water, but just like make a little bit less episodes, so you can have like Mike, and the rest of the gang, even Max, have more screen time, especially since she's like the new one into the group. But they just have her in from the cliffhanger there.
What about you, LavLav? How about your thoughts on it? Are you happy that they brought back 11 early as they did, or did you think maybe it was better if they would have drug it out a little longer?
I was happy. I enjoyed it because, I mean, I like their style directing because there isn't a lot of filler, and I'm not a filler person. I hate it. It annoys me. So I was happy. I was like, yes, we're gonna get 11 straight away. She's the one, like Alicia said, she's the one I was worried about. I know everyone else is with their families. I didn't know if 11 was getting her waffles in her little, box. So I liked knowing she was safe and with Hopper right off the bat. And then I just wanted to know, okay, it's been a year. And I like it because you get that conclusion where you're like, yes, 11's safe. But then you're like, hold up. It's been a year. The boys don't know where she is. So what's going on? So I like how they did it. I like that they gave you knowing where 11 was, but they also gave you questions because now you want to know what she's been doing for a year, what's been happening. So I thought it was really well done.
Okay, that was last scene of episode 1, and to end off episode 1, we'll go around and see what you guys thought about the episode. Well, I guess to give it 1 out of 10 Eggos. What did you think, Alicia? How many Eggos would you give this episode?
All right, real quick. before I answer that, there's a couple of things I put in my notes about this. And I think this episode was, to me, Steve finding out deep down that it was the beginning of the end for him and Nancy. I mean, when she's looking over his paper, what he says, you know, it doesn't matter. I'm probably going to end up working for my dad. I don't need to worry about applying for colleges. And if I did work for him, then I could be here to watch over you during your senior year and make sure you don't forget my pretty face. He knows that she really isn't feeling him that much anymore. He's done too much fuck shit to really come back from that with the girl. But he keeps on going and, you know, gets in his feelings and whatnot. So I'm like, just go sit in a corner and just leave people alone. And then there's the kids. Exactly. Fuck Steve. Get it trending, people. Hashtag fuck Steve.
I felt bad for Steve. I'm sorry.
Fuck him. That's just the two words that come to mind when I think of him. And then the Stalkers Are Us squad. I think, you know, teenage boys and prepubescent boys need to know that you really just can't try to run around and spy on someone, because it makes you look like an absolute creeper. Like it's not okay to just.
But it worked out,
if you're interested.
It worked out.
It worked out now only because it needed to work out for the plot. In real life, if that was your sister that they were running around doing that with, you would be ready to
that's my sister. That's different.
Everybody knows it was the pearly whites.
It's like watching. Shut the hell up, Tony. It's like watching, like Dave Chappelle said, it's like watching Pepe Le Pew when you're a kid and then watching him when you're an adult. When you're a kid, the shit seems like it's funny, but then when you get to be an adult, you're like, what the fuck kind of stalker rapist is this dude following this chick all around the world when she keeps saying no and he's still trying to here, you want the D? It's right here. You sure?
You don't be a Jonathan and just take photos. Like, you don't be a little
Jonathan. No, he
target little kids.
Moments too. He had his weird ass stalker moments too. I like him better than Steve, but yeah, he needed to learn it's not cool to go around and do that, bruh. You know that. But anyways, as far as what I would rate the episode, I would go with maybe a strong 7.58 out of 10 Eggos for the opening.
How about you, BBM? Would you think about how many eggs? And I should ask too. You got any final thoughts on this episode before we move on to the second one? Before you give your 1 to 10 Eggos?
No, I have nothing to say about it. I think it was like all points were like said about this episode in this recap so far. But I give it 8 out of 10 Eggos. It was a good start. It could have been a very slow. But again, like LavLav was saying, they don't do fillers. So it was great. Every single thing, they nailed it. Give us a little bit of Bill, a little bit of Max. So we know, okay, what these characters are. Even like that doc, I'm not sure if it was a doctor or a psychologist, whatever, who was like interviewing Will. They gave us a little bit about him. So it's like, okay, these are people that we should like focus on, as well as the returning. And also like, I'm not sure if this was the episode where the phone was going off and Will's mom's was like freaking out a bit, whatever. I'm not sure if it was this episode or episode 2. I don't know if anyone remembers.
When the phone, what are you talking about? When the phone rang? What?
Yeah, like Bob and Will's mom's. I can't remember her name. Like the phone went off and she was like petrified at one point. Joyce. Like the phone goes off. It was like, oh, that could just be a prank.
Yeah, he was like, don't worry about it. It's probably just a prank caller.
It's like, is she like still traumatized? You know, and I think that was like the only time in this whole season like the phone goes off.
I just got it from
she's
like
still traumatized
from last season about her. You know how she was with the phone and the lights. Remember the one she answers it and it like burns her, or it like lightning kind of thing goes through it. And I think it's just a carryover to show that it still affects her, even though she has Will back. I understand what you're saying, though. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah. Lavi, you have any last thoughts about this episode before you give your rating?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't mind Steve I know you guys are hating on Steve, but he's okay guy. He's just kind of I don't know, shallow, I guess would be the word. There's not a lot of depth to him. He's really kind of superficial about everything. But I give him credit for at least recognizing, hey, Nancy is pretty deep. Nancy's a pretty intelligent girl. He wants something. He's not trying to settle for being shallow and kind of superficial, but he's just not on the same level as her mentally. Maybe he'll grow a little more if they don't kill him in the next few seasons, but I don't mind the guy. He's not so bad. And I wanted to say I really like that they gave Joyce like a little bit of PTSD, you know, like how do you go through that with your kid and not have some of that linger inside you? So I totally got that. I agree with everybody. I think I'll give it about an 8 with some whipped cream and some 8 waffles with some whipped cream and some cherries on top. That's what I'll give it.
Also, one final thought. Who the hell was in charge of censoring video games back in the day? Because that damn game that they were playing, what was it, fucking Princess Daphne or whatever the hell her name was?
Yeah.
Why was that game? Why was that game so sexualized? Like, what the hell?
It's just like with anything else in video games to cartoons. I think whatchamacallit, the female Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, didn't she have like a freaking big melon chest?
I don't know. I that was after the Turtles were cool for me. I don't remember her a whole lot.
April O'Neil.
Oh, that's. I thought you were talking about the female turtle. Okay, April O'Neil. Yeah, that was another one.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like how they put that in because it kind of was like an introduction to, like you said, the prepubescent boy. It's like, oh yeah,
they're all 13 now, so it would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the same way Lavi said. I felt at first I didn't like Steve in the first season, like, but then you seen kind of like what I liked about him, I guess now is because of the fact that he kind of went against what all his like so-called cool friends thought about, you know, how you did with dating girls and stuff, and he went for the girl that wasn't really in the in crowd, and he kind of like let his feelings take over other than what his friends thought about him, and it kind of fucked him with his friends, and now they look at him like, oh, you're a dork because you're dating a dork kind of girl. And then you seen how like when they were spray painting the shit on the movie theater thing in the first season about her being a slut, and like, yeah, he stood by and let him do it, but that was like that middle point where he was starting to be like, you know, the hell with the friends, he really likes her, and he's gonna, you know, take a chance with her, and, you know what I mean, give up his reputation as being the king of Hawkins, like they were saying when Billy came around. And like I felt like now, like I said, I feel kind of bad for him now because he took a chance, and now she's like, you know, he was the bee's knees to her in the beginning. Now she's like, you know, really realized, you know, she likes Jonathan and all that, and it kind of gets him. He's like left out, you know, out on the sideline, and that's why I'm kind of glad they brought Dustin to be his little, like, you know, road dog, give him a purpose. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I probably go ahead.
Steve, though, it's like, just like how they originally intended, they really should have just broke off Steve and Nancy in season 1 and just worked on his character more in season 2.
True.
That's what they should have done.
I thought they would have, like, that was the way they were going to go. And then when you seen in the second season how, like, they're in the car and she's looking over his essay and it's, like, showing how, you know, he should have paid attention a little more in school. And
see how dumb this dude was. That's why I'm saying this is he knew this was the beginning of the end for that relationship, because he is not on her level at all by any means. You know, they tried to play with it in season 1, like he was a popular kid and she was the, you know, somewhat known, maybe almost popular, but she was like the nerdy, quiet kid that always did all her homework, got straight A's and whatnot, and he was the bad boy popular guy. But now he's like, yeah, I don't really hold that weight at all, and this should be out of my league mentally. I can't keep up with her.
Right. And now he kind of, there's no going back for him really in the whole, you know, the social scene, because now they look, you know, he ain't got Nancy either. You know, and I think too, he kind of came off real stage 4 clingerish when he was like, "Yeah, I'll just work with my dad and stick around so I can watch you while you're still in high school."
What were you about to say, Love?
I was gonna say, I like that though because it's realistic. Like sometimes you're attracted to somebody and you try to make it work out, and then you're just like, nah, I like you, you're a cool person, but it's just not there. Like we're not. You're over here, I'm over here. So I liked it. I like that they show that you can try to give it a chance. Doesn't mean it's gonna work, you know. She
I agree with that. Grace from Beyond the Trailer, she actually commented on that also. She was like, you know, sometimes women will stay in relationships because they think that's like what's expected, that's what's supposed to be the best thing, and that it isn't right. And that's exactly what Nancy did, and I think that's also what Joyce did with Bob, but we'll get into that when we get to their episode. You gotta watch out. You gotta watch out, fellas. Watch out for chicks that do that. It sucks, but it's the mentality that's been ground into a lot of females. But it's still hurtful in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we'll move on now to episode 2. The title of episode 2 was Trick or Treat Freak. And the synopsis goes, after Will sees something terrible on Trick or Treat night, Mike wonders if 11 is still out there. Nancy wrestles with the truth about Barb. So we start out this episode. You end up the episode opens up with after the events of the last episode where 11 awakens to find herself in the Upside Down. She escapes through the gate that the Demogorgon produced and runs off back to Mike's house, where you see the scene where she's looking like through the window and Mike can see her. And then like the cop, like the CIA guys all go frantic because I think he's looking at something, and she runs off. And that's the last time that Mike gets to see her. But in the beginning or at the end of the last episode, we find out that 11 actually is being she's being kept safe with Hopper in this like a cabin in the woods kind of thing. I guess it was his dad's. I think he said dad's hunting cabin or something like that. And
his grandfather's, I think.
Yeah, that's what it was. And you see 11 for the first time. You see her come out, and she asked him, I guess, about. I think this one. She asked him about going trick or treating as a ghost. Remember? And she's like, "Well, nobody will know it's me," And he has to like tell her, like, "Look, it's not safe." And she's the typical kid, even though she has these abilities and everything. She's still a kid at heart, and all she wants to do is see her friend Mike, and she wants to be part, have an actual childhood. It starts. You could see her starting little by little get, pretty pissed off at the situation of having to be pretty much kept in this cabin doing nothing but watching sitcoms all day while Hop's out doing what he does. And it starts to show like Hop, he tries to, for the most part, he tries to be there for her much as he can, but he also is the chief of police of a town. So a lot of things start happening with the crops dying and everything. So it's pulling him more and more away from his, what he's trying to be for 11 and keeping her happy. So this is the part where Nancy talks about Steve about Barb. Now, you see how they go to dinner with Barb's parents. Now, did you think that maybe, even though they were told to keep this secret and not ever bring this up, and do you think that Nancy, they should have just came out and told the parents right away when they were at dinner, or do you think they, went about it the way that they did go about it in the show? Think that was the right way to do it? Start with Alicia.
Yo, they should not have said a damn thing at all. And I understand how Nancy is feeling. I really do, because, those parents, They don't know what the hell is going on. And it seems like Barb was their only child. So, you know, parents that only have one kid, that's their pride and joy. And, you know, she just disappeared, it seemed, off the face of the earth. Nobody found. They don't know what happened to her. People probably try to tell them that she might have ran away for some reason, this, that, and the third, but they still don't know. And when a loved one dies or something happens to them, you need closure. You need to know what happened. And, you know, they're scared and worried about their daughter. So I can't fault their actions. But at the same time, neither Nancy or Steve can go around and just tell them what the hell happened, because, you know, we saw what happened when Nancy was about to. I think it was either later in this episode or in episode 3 where she tried to talk to them, and little did she know, I don't know why she didn't know, considering who her brother is, that her wires were tapped, and they knew. They heard when she said, I have to tell you something. It's about Barb. And you know what? No, Nancy, you are putting everyone in danger with that shit. Learn how to shut what they call the fuck up.
What did you think of BBM, how Nancy wanted to say to her parents? Do you think, like Alicia said, they should have just, you know, said nothing at all? Or do you think it was kind of stupid of her to even say what she said on the phone, knowing, you know, how in-depth this program was with the CIA or whatever it is that's involved, that they wouldn't be tapping her phone lines?
Hey, hold on, real quick. I'm sorry. My roommate just pointed something out to me. She just said that it's possible that Nancy wasn't even mad about, like, people not know about the parents not knowing what happened to Barb, but it was her own guilt that was eating away at her, because she did Barb dirty that night. You know, Barb wanted to leave. She wanted to go home, but Nancy was just obsessed with whatever and being in the moment and staying with Steve and impressing him, that she didn't even give a second thought to what could happen to Barb outside all by herself, which is an interesting observation.
Yeah, that's a good point. My wife said the same thing. She said, oh, she just wants to stay because she's guilty. And it's funny because I didn't even think about it until you just said it, and it makes sense.
I didn't think about it till just now. That's a very interesting point.
What about you, BB? How did you feel about it?
Starters, her roommate is right and borrowing some of her points because it's right. But starters, finger looking good, KFC reference for the win right there, for the win. Even though I'm a Popeyes man, but still for the win for that alone. But it's like, yeah, I agree. For the first time ever, I agree with Steve. You shouldn't have said anything to the parents. It's like, how could you explain that? So yeah, it was the upside down, the Demogorgon, like, kidnap you, like, your daughter and stuff. Like, if she actually would have said that, they'll actually think that, wait a minute, Nancy, you're like making fun of us. You know, we're trying to, like, grieve here with, you know, Barbara, and now you're gonna tell us, like, oh, some creature, whatever. Just like, they would not have believed her. Period. It's like what people always say, like, nothing ever happens here. So how would you even, like, spit that out? That's how I looked at it.
What about you, LavLav? Did you feel the same way about it? You think she should have just not even like, the thought shouldn't even have crossed her mind about wanting to tell Barb's parents?
I think actually the way she did it was the only way you could do it, was to expose that corporation or whatever. I agree. I think she feels guilty, but I also think it's eating her away to see these parents searching for a child that she knows is dead, and she can't like she can't just tell them. That would be ridiculous. Just like BBM said, they're gonna be like, either you're crazy or you're making fun of us. So I think the way they did it was the only way to do it. They had to expose the whole thing. To something Alicia said, I think she knew her wires were tapped. I think that was all a setup to get picked up and taken to the compound or whatever that place is, so that they could do the recordings and all that. So I think she knew she was being recorded. It was all a setup. And I just want to say what a big assholes these corporations are. They made a Will body for Joyce. Why couldn't they make a Barb body? Just let it rest. Like, oh, she got in a wreck or something. set some shit up. Like, they do all this stuff. They couldn't do that for Barb. They leave like the parents there in limbo, not knowing if their child's alive or dead. So, well, I think Nancy has a really strong morality, and so I think she feels guilt, and it's also killing her to see her friend's parents not get any closure and be constantly in limbo, not knowing whether their kid's dead or alive. That's like probably worse than knowing that your kid's dead. So that's my opinion on it. I like how she did it. I think that was the only way to do it.
You had a good point, Lav. It's like no one cared for Barb.
Right.
She was a side note. It's like Bill went missing. It's like, okay, everyone was like, then again, you know, the mother, she was like always like nagging, like, okay, where's Will? Where's Will? But then with the parents, it's like you still have to kind of like blame, you know, Nancy for it, because she was always saying like, wait, where is Barbara at? Oh, wait, she's supposed to be at my house. I think that was the plan. She's supposed to be at their house, at Nancy's house, studying. And then like, oh, wait, is she like not back at home? No. Oh, wait a minute. I think she was supposed to go to the library. She was basically just prolonging it. And even though after they basically found out that, yeah, something happened to Barb, they could have just made a fake body. Like Harper could have went in the van and been like, yeah, by the way, we need a fake body for Barbara so we can cover that portion up. But they never did. And like just having that along, maybe the writers knew that maybe we should have made Barbara like interesting or something. So I'm guessing that's why they also kind of carried that on into season 2 to make a storyline for Nancy and have like a kind of a reason, okay, we have to break Steve off since it didn't happen in season 1.
Yeah, that brings up a point I forgot to bring up from the last episode. I forgot all about talking about Murray Bauman, I think his name was. He was that guy that was like, you know, that typical conspiracy theorist. Even he was in the police station on Halloween meeting, trying to meet Hopper because he's finding out stuff about Barbara. And that's the whole reason at that dinner they said they're selling their house. They're selling their house because they said they had a real detective on their case, and it was that guy. And they're pretty much selling their house, you know, to be able to pay for it. And like you said, like that's their only child. And, you know, when you have, that's your only child, that's your world. Like everything you do in your life is for the betterment of that child and you know, leave something for that child when you die. And like with, just to bring up something small, like in my occupation, like I deal with a lot of people that have substance abuse and addictions to all kinds of shit, gambling, eating, you know what I mean, video games, whatever. But it's mostly substance abuse. And some of the people I know that have kids, you know, without saying names, there's somebody I deal with. She has 2 kids, and sometimes we'll do I do like family sessions with them where they'll bring in like them. They're the one with the addiction, and then they'll bring in their kids or their significant other. And the one kid talked about how, you know, his mom. I mean, I got it mixed up. The daughter is the addict. The mom spends all the time trying to help the daughter when she has another daughter that is being neglected by it. And that's the thing, when you only have one kid, you know, you can do that. You can sell your whole house and give up everything, and you know, and perhaps maybe coming closer to finding out what happened, or to find out that they're alive and find them. But when you have another kid, you can't do that. You know, you got to look. It's hard. I couldn't even imagine making that choice. You know, having to think, all right, I have to give up my journey looking for my one kid because I'm neglecting the other kid. You know what I mean? Like, I guess too, like with her being an only child. You know, they're older. You know, if they're all right living in an apartment, 1-bedroom apartment, whatever, that's their choice and their choice to live with. They don't have to make that choice for another child. And so I didn't really look at it that much as feeling bad for them, like, you know, pretty much paying this conspiracy theorist guy, because everybody thinks this guy's crazy. But we know as the viewer that he's on something because we know from what we saw. But if you were in that predicament and you seen, you know, you're just thinking this guy's just, you know, tapping them dry, you know, giving them a false hope. You know, he might not have thought that he knew as much as he did, but we being the viewers, we knew he was onto something. But yeah, I completely forgot about that guy from the first episode. So yeah, they're over there talking at dinner about that. And then it goes the next, most of this episode, it kind of goes around Elle and her journey of trying to stay alive in the woods. And the funniest part, I think, of the whole season when she's having to go around and kill squirrels, and like they're walking through the woods, and she like throws a squirrel into a tree, like with her little telekinesis thing or whatever. And there's some like hunter comes along, and he's like, hey, what are you doing out here? And she takes the squirrel and like throws the squirrel in her mind and like knocks out the guy, and then robs him for a jacket. I thought that part was great. But how did you think it was conducive to the show and Elle's journey for them to pay so much time on what she had to do to survive out in the woods? How did you feel about that whole situation? We'll start with Lav this time. How did you feel they did showing 11 up to the point where she comes across, I guess, Hop and being able to go to this cabin?
I liked it. They show how alone 11 was, because I mean, I think Hopper's doing his best in trying to take care of her, but not doing the best job, and not because of lack of trying, just because he doesn't have the maybe experience to deal with this certain situation, or to deal with, you know, a little pubescent girl either. So he has her in this this cabin in the woods all by herself all day with just the TV for companionship. It's not a good way to live. He has all the best intentions, but it's not a great way to live. But at least you get to, I don't know, give Hopper more credit once you see how she was alone eating squirrels in the woods. So like he helped her get to a better place, even though that place isn't exactly perfect. But I felt really bad for 11 this season. I just think like I'm a person who really enjoys being alone, but if you left me in the cabin in the woods just with a TV for like the majority of my time, I think I would lose my mind. So so yeah, I liked it because it does show how much Hopper helped her, because I think if they didn't show me that, I would be a little more pissy with Hopper that he just has her there. Like, if she's not a person who doesn't need interaction, who doesn't need to go out. I get it. I get why he's doing it, but it's still not a cool thing to do to a kid. And then like the whole ET in the sheet with the eyes thing, like I felt so bad for her when he like snaps at her and tells her like she can't, no, you can't, it's dangerous. And he's like, I know he's angry with her because he's worried and he has like all this I guess baggage from his losing his daughter, but I felt really, really bad for her. So I really think that part of her wandering around the woods by herself, eating squirrels, dodging hunters, dodging people that could recognize her, helped me not be so pissed at Hopper for his bad, I think, attempt at helping her. That, I don't know.
No, that's a good point, Bob. I did kind of enjoy like showing how. Well, I mean, I didn't enjoy the debt she was alone, but I like how they showed like how alone she was, and like even though she has these powers, like you gotta keep going back to the point that she is a little kid. Like, you know, she still gets cold, she still gets, you know, hungry, you know, like the things she has to do, and then she's scared to leave the woods because you've seen, you know, the manhunt they put out for this kid, even though they had to make it not known what they really were and what they were looking for. Like they still like looking just the first season, like some of the first couple scenes when they show when she escapes and they go into this diner, just blast this dude just because he was somebody that seen her. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was the extent they were going to try to get her back. But you know, there was balls to the wall, and I think she really felt like no choice but to stay in those woods like that until Hopper was, you know, that, you know, choice of keeping her safe, and she trusted Hopper from how he helped them out the season before. And I believe wholeheartedly, like what you said about I think he was really trying to overcompensate for his daughter dying, and he was just, you know, it came off as him being a dick, but I just think he didn't know any other way to try to keep her safe. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't understand that she's a child and that she doesn't look at it the way an adult would. You know, she just wants to be a kid and go trick or treating and stuff. And I see both sides of it, though. But BBM, how did you feel about them showing Elle's journey? Did you think it was good how they did it, or you think they spent too much time on it? How do you feel?
For me, it was an excellent journey. I'm glad it just picked off like the moment she defeated the Demogorgon to like how she met freaking Hopper in the freaking woods. It was excellent. You know, just seeing how she killed the damn squirrel, even though the squirrel didn't do nothing to her. But hey, it's survival out there for 11, you know. It reminded me a little bit of Daryl from The Walking Dead. But again, like, I had a point, but I freaking forgot it. And it was a good point, but damn it, though. But like what LavLav said, it was like, how would she not go mad out there? It's like, same thing when season 1 when they kept on with Papa like threw her in the room and isolated her, so she was kind of like used to the loneliness. Oh, now I remember the damn point. Now it's like then we didn't mention when we were talking about the first episode, like how Mike was like still talking and like on that communication, trying to like contact like 11. He's like, I wonder, I'll keep on saying this. Okay, you love her that much, think she's like still alive or whatever, and then it was like confirmed in this episode in the flashback that he saw her in the damn window. So it's like, oh shoot. So this is what pissed me off even more with Hopper. I'm like, dude, you could have at least told Mike of all people that like 11 is alive, or just allow him like meet up a bit. Like, I don't know, like a small note of Morse code that you've basically been like learning. I think what next episode we learned, like you've been doing Morse code. You could have told Mike that. Like, it was like, I don't know. Like, for that alone, that's why I kind of like hated Hopper. Everything else was cool with Hopper, but it was just that alone that really nagged me about Hopper. But it's like him with it, like trying to like raise 11 is like, I'm not really surprised since he like lost his own daughter at a young age and he's still like traumatized with that. Other than that, I'm cool with. And paying a kid for get candy. Shame on you, Hopper.
See, I understand too where you're coming from, like, but I do see like the part with Hop, like, yeah, he knows, you know, how Mike felt about it, and you know, especially Mike out over all the other boys, but you kind of look at it as like this older, you know, adult that, you know, even though it wasn't for a long period of time, was a father, he's not looking at I have to wonder if I can trust Mike or not. He's just thinking how a kid would be. Like, kids just, you know, without even thinking sometimes say things they shouldn't say, and that's all. And he's just looking at it as that way, like it's all it would take is for one of them to talk too loud around somebody.
It was like, we know, like they wouldn't say anything. Even like during season 1, it's like they didn't say anything about 11 for the longest, and they still continue to do that. Even when like later episodes when like Max wanted to know, okay, about 11 and everything, they were all like, don't say 11 out loud and everything. Like they were just on the hush hush about it. So even then, that couldn't just like give like Hopper like, okay, at least let me tell at least one of them or something, you know. And even if you can tell it was affecting the kids themselves, because like I don't know if it was just like, you know, them being like, you know, adolescent, teenage, whoever, but you can hear from like Mike's father that he was acting out, you know, and they were like taking away his toys and stuff. So it's like you can see it was really affecting Mike the most, at least.
That did suck though, when you seen how like Mike kept trying to reach out for her, and like she could hear and know he was there and not be able to say anything. Like that was kind of like heartbreaking. Like both of them really wanted to speak to each other. And
day 100, day 200 and something, day 300. When is this going to end? And I was like,
every day down to the T, like how many days it was. How about you, Alicia? Before we go on, how did you feel about the journey they showed about? Did you think it was you know, real good how they did it, or did you think it was too drug out? How did you feel?
Say that again, please. I'm sorry.
How did you feel about Elle's journey that they showed from when she gets out of the after defeating the Demogorgon and she comes out the hole in the wall and up to the point where Hop finds her or whatever and takes her in and keeps her safe? Did you feel they did that right, or was it they drag it out too long?
No, I actually liked it. I mean, the main question I have, though, is how did Hopper know to start leaving food out there? Because when she finally revealed herself to him, he was surprised. Like, it didn't seem like he knew she was out there, that he knew, you know, she could be in hiding or whatever. So I'm wondering what made him start leaving food out there in the first place. And secondly, you know, with Eleven's behavior, you got to eat. You got to survive. So, you know, if a squirrel comes along and you need some food, well, that's dinner. I mean, you know, that random hunter came along. She knows she can't take any chances with anyone really seeing anything. I mean, she didn't kill him. She just knocked him out and then took his shit. He can get up and go back to his life and live another day. And then she's going to be warmer for the action she took, you know. Survival of the fittest is the mode that she was in. And if you think about how she was raised and, you know, the facility she was held in, that's pretty much all she knows. So she has to make sure she survives and she has enough energy to get through what she needs to get through. And, you know, once she did finally reveal herself to Hopper, you know, I think she's a decent enough judge of character to see that he would have helped her and not like turned her in or anything. And, you know, with Hopper, how protective he was, I get that he didn't want her to go anywhere or do anything because, you know, Mike was missing her, yes, but Mike would not have kept that a secret. He would have at least told all the other kids in the group, and that's where shit would have started going wonky. They probably wouldn't have told anyone, but all of them were being watched 24/7. They don't know it, but they were all being watched. They would have fucked around and tried to go see her or made frequent enough trips to where someone would see from the energy company or from the CIA that they were going to this one place in the woods, and they would have found her just that much quicker. So I think Hopper was totally right in keeping her inside and keeping her a secret. I did appreciate the ET callback with Halloween and her dressing up as a ghost, but it also brought me back to another Dark Angel tie-in. The character Joshua on that show wanted to go out and, you know, interact with people, and Halloween was the perfect medium for him to do that because Joshua, he was infused with canine DNA. So he looked basically like a human man dog hybrid, something or other. But if you go out on Halloween, that's okay. No one's really going to be able to tell that you're not fully human. And that was the same thing with Elle. She could go with the ghost disguise and no one would see her. But again, you put her next to Mike and the other kids and everything goes up in smoke. So I appreciate that Elle, you know, she was feeling cooped up. She needed to get out. However, she needed to listen to Hopper and what he was trying to say because the world is fucking dangerous for her right now. And she, I don't think, was grasping how much of that was in her reality.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I think Hop was doing what he knew best to do. And even if we have the opinion that it was done, you know, not done the best way, that's the best he knew. And, you know, it was his his actions, you know, were completely of wanting to keep this kid safe. All right. So we move on to the party, the Halloween party. And Nancy has a little bit too much to drink. And she, you know how when they say you drink too much, you start to let out the truth a little. And they're in the bed. She spills her drink because Steve's trying to take it from her, telling her she drank too much. They're in the bathroom, and Nancy tells Steve that she doesn't love him, and that's what causes him to leave and everything. Now, we know from watching, you know, the first season up to this point that, you know, Nancy was little by little starting to like not feel Steve anymore and starting to, you know, go into Jonathan more. 'Cause Jonathan, I think, is closer to her, like with things in common and stuff than, you know, Steve is. She likes Steve because she was never the real like it girl, and he was the it guy. So dating a guy like that, you know, would, you know, make her look good and boost her ego and her standing in the life we call high school. So did you guys think that, you know, she went about it the wrong way? You know, of course she's drunk. We can give the excuse, you know, she probably wouldn't have went that, you know, she wouldn't have went balls to the wall like she did on how she told him how she really felt. So did you think she should have went about it differently and not been a dick about it, or did you just think it comes down to she was drunk and that's what people do when they're drunk? We'll start out with Alicia this time.
Hey, what was the question?
The seed where they're at the Halloween party, and she drinks too much, and Steve tries to take the drink from her. She spills it on her shirt. And when she's in the bathroom and she tells Steve how she doesn't love him, the question is, do you think she should have went about that in a different way, not so dickheadish, or did you just chalk it up as she was drunk and that's what people do when they're drunk? They say ignorant shit.
When you're drunk, yes, you say ignorant shit, but a lot of times it just allows you to be honest with how you're dealing. I think, you know, because she was so in her feelings about stuff, you know, that being drunk, that just brought it all to the forefront. You know, like I said, I think Steve knew that it was the beginning of the end for them, and that's why he kept saying, you know, say you love me, say you love me. If it wasn't bullshit, tell me you love me. And that's just what it was. She started recognizing a while ago, I think, that that's not who she needed to be with. And I think Steve now in this season realizes that she's not feeling him the way he wants her to. Like, he went under a pretty big change because of her. So I think he feels that, you know, that they should work out. They're the dream couple. That's what should happen. But Nancy is like, yeah, no, that this just isn't what I'm feeling at all. And she could have tried to come out and say that. And yeah, I think she was trying to spare his feelings in all of their interactions while she was sober. But drunk Nancy has no fucks to give. And she's going to say, nah, this is bullshit. You're bullshit. We're bullshit. This whole situation with Barb is bullshit. And I can't fucking stand it. And Steve did not know how to deal with that. It got too real for him too quick. And he didn't know how to deal with it. That's why he just said, okay, Jonathan, you take her home, please. And he knew, like I said, he knew it was the beginning of the end. He knew that if he tasked Jonathan with that, she was going to get home safe. He knew that she was not going to listen to any words that he had to say. And that will be it.
I mean, that's another reason why I started to feel sorry for Steve, because he knew how Jonathan felt about Nancy. And he was already, maybe, even though part of it might have been jealousy, you know, part of him realized that Nancy was starting, you know, favor Jonathan. And I give him credit for, you know, wanting to make sure she got home over him, you know, being selfish and trying to keep working out this, you know, thing that wasn't changing, or her saying she didn't love him, or that she didn't love him anymore, never did, whatever. But I give him a little bit of credit on that aspect. So, BBM, how did you think about the way Nancy kind of, you know, shit all over Steve? Did you think she should have, you know, went about it a different way, or just like we said with Alicia, just she was drinking and that's what happens?
Fuck Steve. Like, I didn't feel sorry for him there, because it was just like how Alicia was saying it. It was the inevitable. This was gonna happen. I was just waiting for the scene to come, but it had to happen when she was drunk. I wish that she was, you know, wasn't drunk, and she just came up and being real with him, and like, you know what? Yeah, what's going on between us needs to end. And I think we never even got that for the season. It was just like, yeah, this scene happened, like, what, I think an episode 2 later, or maybe it wasn't even that episode, where they came to each other saying like, oh yeah, do you remember that night? And it's like, god damn, it was like so awkward too. It's like she didn't want to deal with that awkwardness when breaking up with someone. So she was, in a sense, like deep down, I think she was even happy that she even did it drunk. You know, I don't know. I wanted to feel sorry for Steve, but it's like, I don't know. It was like later on, like in the season, I actually did felt sorry for Steve, But until then, it's like, actually, no, I even take that back now, thinking over that and seeing, no, still no. Oh my gosh, I don't like Steve. That's just put it that way. I don't like Steve. Hopefully season 3, he does something good. Till then, But like Alicia did say, she was drunk. And hey, when you're drunk, sometimes you say things you kind of mean and don't. But she really meant this. It was bound to happen. Fuck Steve.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. Like we were talking earlier, I kind of wanted them to wrap up that whole thing last season, but I do kind of understand why it wasn't, because it kind of gave Steve a purpose to be around those group of characters. You know what I mean? Like the Nancy and then her younger brother and his friends. Like without him trying to keep, get things back together with Nancy and just having her so much on his mind to where he's going out to wherever she's at to, have interaction with her. And I think if it would have been more clean cut and dry with the whole breakup and it being a little time in between, I don't think Steve would have ended up being in the place he was with like Dustin and helping him try to get Dart. Like Lav, would you think pretty much the same as everybody else feels, that she was just saying what she really felt in that time because the alcohol was giving her a little courage?
I think she probably didn't acknowledge her feelings until she was drunk. I think she resented even being at that party. She resented that Steve could just go on with his life as normal when all this stuff happened and it's still happening. So, but I don't think she kind of internalized it until she was drinking, and then it just all came out. Like, you know how they say, like, drunks and children are the only ones who tell you the truth. Like, your subconscious stuff just kind of, diarrhea out the mouth. And so I think that's what happened to Nancy. I don't think she would have ever chosen to do it that way, but you can't control your tongue sometimes when you've been drinking. So I think it just came out. But I think once it came out and she was like forced to acknowledge that this is how she felt, then I'll be right there. Okay, say hi to YouTube. So I think she realized like it worked out for the best. Might have been not the best way to handle it, but it worked out for the best.
Yeah, like I do agree with you there. Like I think she really, I don't think it's so much, because it was, I think her saying she didn't love him, it was like you said, like sometimes people would let relationships just drag on because they don't have it in them to, be the one to come out and say, look, this is over. But, anyway, so the last scene of this episode before we move on is the introduction to Dartan, Dart. And Dustin looks in his trash can after hearing noises, and he finds what he doesn't know at the time is like a little baby Demogorgon. And this is too getting to the point where with Max being in their little group of friends, how it seems that Dustin's starting to realize that it's pulling Lucas away because he's so on Max. And you always had Mike and Will are the two that are closest, and then you have like Lucas and Dustin are together. And then I think the whole thing with finding the little Dart was like that was his so-called friend, that he wouldn't have to worry about them leaving him. You get what I'm saying? So how did y'all, like, what was your first reactions when you find out that this little baby looks like a tadpole? Like me at first, I thought it was something from the Upside Down, but I didn't necessarily think it was a whole nother one of those like Demogorgon things. So starting with BBM this time, what were your thoughts when you first seen Dart in the trash can?
For starters, Justin, you're my homie, favorite of the group. But you were a dumbass to pick that thing up. Like, did you not know what happened in the first season? Like, what happened? Did you get amnesia? Like, oh my gosh. Granted, they're kids, but he should know better. He's like one of the smartest people in the damn group. And he literally just picked up a slimy damn creature. Now, granted, I remember when I was a kid myself, you know, I would bring critters from outside into my home. Then my mother would just smack me and say, boy, take that out of the house. Granted. But like, come on, you know, maybe, you know, West Indian parents, you know, Dustin's down West Indian, you know, I don't think his mother would ever even hit Dustin or anything, granted though. But like, come on, Dustin. But yeah, I knew it was from the Upside Down. When later on we find out what the creature actually becomes and look like, that was a shocker to me though. It was going to be actually a entirely different species out of it, like completely different. But it's like, still, damn it, Justin, not Justin, Dustin, mixing it up. But yeah, he was dumb for that, very dumb. And I'm surprised that thing didn't grow up overnight though. I really thought so.
Lav, did you get to hear the question, Lav?
Yeah. I'm with BBM. I was texting. I have this friend who really loves Stranger Things too. So as soon as I saw Dustin with that thing, I was like, he had already watched it, right? So I was like texting him. I was like, is this thing gonna kill him? What the hell is this kid doing? Like, what's happening? What's gonna happen? Is this thing gonna be like a psycho, like slug? What the hell? Like, tell me. And he's like, I'm not gonna tell you. You have to watch. And I was like, he's a dumbass, right? He's a dumbass. He should not be picking up this little animal. And he's like, I'm not gonna tell you. And I was like, son of a bitch, you know? But as soon as I saw that thing, I was like, no, Dustin, no. I wanted to like smack his little hand, but he didn't listen to me. So yeah, I was against it from the beginning. I'm with BBM on this one.
Flux City, he thought it was an evil ET. But what did you feel about that, Alicia? What were your first thoughts when you we were introduced to little D'Artagnan? And like, what did you think it was? Little baby Demogorgon? Did you just think it was just something else that seeped into the real world through the Upside Down?
Well, I automatically thought it was something from the Upside Down because I paired that together with Will coughing up that slug at the end of season 1. And seriously, Dustin was fucking up in this episode. Like Lav said, he was the smartest one to put things into the realm of understanding with, you know, Dungeons and Dragons and how everything was. And for him to be the one to find this creature and coddle him and think that he should be, you know, kept as a pet and whatnot, it just didn't work out. And I appreciate, though, that when he was trying to find out information about him, he actually had to go to the library and read some books. You know, there was no Google back in the 80s. You couldn't just do that, or there was no Wikipedia. You literally had to read and research everything that was going down. And Dustin, being the smart person that we know he is, it took away from his character that he would, you know, keep this pet and not see that it was something bad, especially after Will said, I heard him in one of my visions. That's how I knew this thing could be dangerous. He totally ignored that. And then he turned into fucking Ash Ketchum and put the damn thing on his head and hid it under his hat and said, oh no, he's not here. He must have went somewhere else and got away with Will, or maybe Will has him because Will's not here either. No, Dustin, I need you to get your life. Get it together, because this is not the way to go. However, though, on the flip side of that, it is because of D'Artagnan they were able to escape the tunnels later on. So it's almost a catch-22. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. If Dart hadn't been there to get them out,
no. You don't think it later.
There to eat the nugget and to let them pass. You know, it might have been a Gandalf situation. You shall not pass. They might not have made it out of those tunnels. That's the one positive spin I'll put on that. But otherwise, no, Dustin, you fucking up, and you should let Mike smash that shit to all hell.
It's kind of funny because it's like I forgot all about the part too, Alicia, where Will coughed up little whatever they were in the sink the season before. But it is funny that like it kind of reminds me of when a person has like a really wild animal and tries to have it as a pet, like a lion or a cougar, and they think because 99% of the time it shows you love and compassion, and then they want to ask why when that one time out of 100 it takes a chunk out of your neck. Like in the end, you might be able to bond with something, even the smallest amount when you're there for them from day one. But in the end, a wild animal is still wild. Like you cannot domesticate something that's had that same way of doing things for eons and eons. Like it would take friggin' generations and generations for a real animal to take out that thing that's in their DNA to be aggressive and attack.
It's like that lady that had damn chimpanzee as a pet, and then she ended up calling the cops because the chimp had for however her friend disrespected that chimp, he went ham and basically ate her damn asshole out. It was ridiculous. First of all, I understand you might think that chimps or monkeys or apes are cute, but they are still wild fucking animals. They will attack you.
It's in their DNA.
Because that is their nature. If you do something they don't like, you are fucking gone. There's no coming back from that. So why, Dustin, the smart person that you are, why would you keep this thing in your home and then still try to somewhat reason with it after it eats your family cat? Come on, Dustin, you fucking up. That is that fuck shit. Stop it.
Can I say something about Dustin?
Yeah.
I think part of the reason this all happened is because of how smart Dustin is. Dustin is that scientist that goes too far, I think. That scientist that doesn't know when he needs to pull back. So he sees a new creature that's never been seen on Earth before, and he wants to lay claim to it. He wants to study it. He wants to name it. He wants, all that stuff.
Wait. Hold on. Did Dustin just become Qyburn?
Yeah, Dustin.
Is that what the fuck just happened?
Exactly. But with cute curly hair and pearly white.
Hot damn it, Dustin, damn it.
Yeah, so what was I gonna say? It threw me all off topic. Yeah, so with that's pretty much the end of that episode. Does anybody have any final thoughts about the second episode before we give our rating on this episode?
Yeah, I got a couple points. First of all, this is the episode where Hopper had made that compromise with Elle to come home early so they could watch a scary movie and pig out on candy, and he was late.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So Elle was in her feelings, rightfully so. I understand it. Also, I'm totally over Billy because he saw some random kids in the middle of the road and thought it'd be cool to run them over just to prove that Max was liking living where they are. No, that doesn't prove that Max likes anyone. It just means she doesn't want you to fucking kill people unnecessarily, dude.
Sure.
What the hell is wrong with you? Get out of your fucking head, please, because that shit is going nowhere positive. And then let's see what else happened here. Mike, we get to see Mike's hatred towards Max, and I get it, but I still want to smack him in the face because of it. Like, Lucas was the biggest voice against 11 in season 1, and now we have this girl that Lucas is very interested in, and Mike is like, you know what? She's ruining my Halloween. Like, I don't. Why is she here? She's not a part of the company. This is some bullshit. Get rid of her, because he's still in his feelings about Elle. And I understand.
I don't blame Mike for that. No.
No. Listen, let me finish.
Halloween, the greatest night in kids' holidays. No. That's Christmas. I don't want to spend it with my friends. Last year, we didn't even spend it with Will, I think. I think he was like messing around that time or so. We're going through our own damn problems.
I understand.
And then who's like focusing on her? We have freaking Lucas. And no.
Yo, see,
She
that's the
ruined
thing.
it.
That's the thing. This is where we see the connection, the unspoken connection between Mike and Nancy. Nancy is his older sister, and she's in her feelings about Barb. Mike is in his feelings about 11, and it all culminates into, you know, there can't be this new person coming into the party. This is some bullshit. And I think that's a callback to how much Lucas spoke against 11 in season 1. So I get it. I totally get it. However, Mike, you needed to assess the situation without your feelings to Elle, because Max didn't have anything to do with that. She didn't know shit about that. She's new to town. That's not her fault. You know, she can't fix that this awesome chick was in here before her. She doesn't know anything about it. That's not her fault.
They were trying to replace Elle.
And yeah, if you just heard my roommate, that's correct. You know, he thought that they were trying to bring in Max to replace 11, and he was not for that shit at all. And I get it. Again, I understand, but judge Max on her own character, not how you're comparing her to Elle. And let's see, what else did I have for this? The damn kid that Hopper bought the candy from in the episode. Where the fuck were his parents?
Right.
We've had like 2 confirmed fuck shit situations, and this little boy doesn't look older than 6, and he's still walking around on these back roads where no other houses were, mind you. No one else was living in that area, and this fucking little boy just comes out of nowhere. Where the fuck were your parents? What the hell was happening there? And mind you, and this may sound racist. I understand it. This may sound racist.
Yes.
But he was a black kid. No fucking black parent is letting their child go out by themselves after some fuck shit has happened in town. I'm sorry. That is bullshit. I know it sounds racist, but that is not fucking happening. BBM, I know you can attest to that, especially because we share the West Indian background. That shit's not happening.
There were no houses around.
Not happening. There were no houses anywhere near that damn road. Why the fuck was that little boy there? It just doesn't make sense.
It's because the sheriff is in the backyard, you know.
It
but even
does
then,
not make
this
fucking
happen
sense. No.
between your house and the sheriff. So
You cannot rationalize that at all.
Well,
You
see, when I
cannot
was
rationalize that at all. Bullshit.
when I was younger, the neighborhood I grew up in was like a tad bit smaller, or not tad bit, significantly smaller than most of the neighborhoods around. So a lot of times, you know, my mom and like my aunts or whatever, somebody would pick and drive, and we'd all hop in a caravan and go to a neighborhood that you were giving out like the king size Snickers and shit. So maybe they took little man out to the real neighborhood and he's just back home, you know, checking out his candy stash.
But not by himself.
Exactly, I get that, but not by himself. There were no houses or any establishments around that area. There was no reason for that kid to be there, except Hopper needed to get some candy quick.
No,
and it just doesn't make sense. The Duffer Brothers don't make mistakes like that. It doesn't make any sense that kid would be out there.
See, this goes into a little bit of tinfoil. Maybe they did that because this little kid is probably number 4, so he don't need anybody to watch him.
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up, Tony!
When Hop asked for his candy, he should have just straight up pulled his sleeve off and said, "Number 5, motherfucker." Don't
Bullshit!
fuck with my
He
kid.
is too damn young. Nope, he is too damn young. You cannot rationalize that shit at all.
But look at the flashback with 11.
That would have let them
They were
straight
pretty
together.
young.
Come on.
Cut it out. No. All right, and another point that we missed when Steve did ask Jonathan to take Nancy home, but how the fuck did Jonathan get Nancy in her house, up to her bedroom and tuck her in without her parents saying a damn thing?
But they don't give a fuck.
How?
Because they probably look at Jonathan and like, this kid ain't slinging no dick. We ain't got to worry about it.
No, I mean, no, her
They
dad.
answered that later. They
Her
answered
dad
that
might
later.
have thought that.
Dad was asleep on the couch. Mom was upstairs with her book, fantasizing about a better life.
No.
That Nancy was gone.
That was later on. That was when fucking
later.
the Red Ranger. That was when the Red Ranger knocked on her door.
But that's what
she
I'm saying.
Came out of the bathtub.
They answered it later. These parents aren't paying all that much attention. Mom is miserable and hiding in her books, and dad is like asleep in front of the TV.
I bet
they didn't even know Nancy left. They don't know who brings her home. They don't know anything.
I still call bullshit. No, you cannot. I cannot be a parent in a home that a child is being brought in passed out drunk, while some random kid taking her upstairs and tucking her in bed. Hell to the no. Fuck that. No. That don't happen.
That's because Mike's mom was in there lusting her with Billy, read one of them 5-year fantasy romance novels upstairs.
Nah, man. I still call bullshit on that whole thing. And my final thing that I wrote in my notes for this episode is the saga of 11 and Mike really should be like its own separate comic book. But it is the creepiest, awesomest love story romance ever. Because of who these two kids are. I love them and I ship them, and I think it's creepy because just all the ominous shit that happens in the background around them and their connection. That's why it's creepy. However, I still think it's awesome, and I hope they don't do any random fuck shit like Pete Easy just said in the chat. Daniel Steele novels. I do not want it to turn.
That's what I was thinking of. I couldn't think of the author's name.
No. I love the relationship the way it is. I totally ship Lucas and Max, and I really hope that goes into something awesome and not the random teenage angst fuck shit that happens in these stories. So
surprisingly, an interracial children.
Yeah, right. Like it's one, an interracial couple, and two, it may not be a big deal to others, but it's awesome to me. She's a ginger, and she's fucking awesome. You know, like they said in the first episode, you know, girls don't play video games. Surprise, motherfucker. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And a lot of times we're better at it than you are. So, boom. I think Lucas and Max are the awesomest couple. Mike and 11 are also awesome, but I need them to keep it on the level that they have it. I don't want it to be fucking Twilight teenage angst.
Yeah.
And I'm scared that's what's going to happen.
But so what was your rating for this episode, Alicia?
Teenage fucking young love.
I think you're muted.
You forgot your ego rating.
Oh, I'm sorry. My ego rating for this episode, I'm gonna go with the same rating that I gave episode 1. 8 out of 10 egos.
Okay. You got any last thoughts about episode 2, BBM, or you just want to give your
I got some thoughts. For starters, I think with that kid, you know, I think it's
number
like kind
5.
of tied in.
I'll tell you right now, if he turns out to be number 5, I called that shit.
Hey, hold on, real quick. Lav, did somebody just come in the room?
I think that was earlier.
It's my daughter. She's coming in and out.
Okay, I didn't know because I didn't see it. But
if you're worried about the cursing, I'm her mother, so you're fine. Everything's fine.
No. My roommate just saw the door open and close, and she was like, "Wait a minute, who the fuck just went in the closet?"
No,
because your kids are tiny. Your kids are short and tiny, just like you are. So she didn't see a person, and I didn't see it happen. So I was like, "Wait a minute, are we catching lives?"
What's she thinking with Frodo Baggins coming through the door?
It's not one of my spirits.
I just had to make sure because after the Halloween stories that you told, exactly. I just need to make sure that I didn't miss some random fuck shit live on camera. I'm just saying.
Her door opens and suddenly a pop falls over and be like, nope, it's over.
Yo, yeah, man, I've done streams with fucking Don the Kraken Wit, and his door has like opened behind him, and we didn't see anybody. And I was like, Kraken, what the fuck is going on behind you? He was like, oh, don't worry, that's just my dog. Like, okay, you need to announce that shit when it happens, or just leave your door open so I'm not paranoid the whole damn stream.
Yeah, my fault, BBM. I got carried away with number 5 because I really feel good about it. But now, you said you was gonna say
There's
something.
2 things. Like, again, nothing happens in that town, so maybe that's why there's a random kid just wandering around in the back. 2, maybe it was like a tie-in for me with like It. Like, nothing happens there, or maybe like the adults are just like out of it. But 2, the Ghostbusters, with them dressing up, as the characters, and then how Lucas didn't want to be, the black guy in the group, and they were going back and forth. But why do you want me to be on Winston for?
Hey yo, sidebar. Lucas is like the male younger me. Because when you are the only black kid in the group, you will totally call your friends out on that fuck shit. And you are supposed to, because we're all down for the squad. We're all down for the nerd squad. However, there are certain interjections that happen where you have to call bullshit where bullshit is afoot.
Friend's house. Everyone gets, apple juice. I get the grape juice. I'm like, whoa,
wow.
Exactly. And that's because their parents don't know any better, and you have to call them out and correct them on that shit. I don't just like the damn grape juice. I like the punch and ice blue also.
Imagine like the kids' parents gotta go out and they're having a party. All the other kids get Sprite and Coca-Cola, and they go grab some Tahitian treat.
Exactly. See, you Puerto Rican, Tony, so you know it too. You get that bullshit too.
I get everybody and their mother when I see them. Yo, what's up, Poppy? I'm like,
right. Like, why do you just automatically assume I speak Spanish? Really?
But you like the Spanish stuff, AK, so. But 3rd point, Erica. She was hilarious. She needs to be part of that group. Period. I love the introduction of freaking Erica. Lucas's sister.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, she was. I forgot all about her. She was great. She was like a little Atlanta Tyrell.
Always throwing the nerd shade at her brother. What was like any other thing that I think those like the points I had to make. And again, I give this an 8 out of 10. It was damn good.
Yeah. What about you, LavLav? You got anything else you want to put to this episode, or how much did you rate it?
I would probably give it like an 8.5. I liked seeing everything that was going on. The things I wanted to point out was Mike is definitely going through the teenage angst before the rest of his friends. Mike is the one who's already rolling his eyes at his mom. Like, everyone else is doing poses for their mom in their Halloween costumes, and Mike's the only one like, Mom, that's enough. Like, I think Mike is definitely maturing faster than his buddies. So that's probably gonna be more angst for Mike, unfortunately. And then I want to say we haven't talked about Bob, and I am in love with Bob. I think Bob is boyfriend goals, and I thought it was so adorable, his stupid little cheesy vampire act. And Bob, if you're out there, call me. That's all I gotta say.
I'm surprised that he was actually an enjoyable character. I thought they were gonna like side him off or be like this douchebag dating, Joyce, but he actually became an enjoyable character.
No, he was a decent character, but for real, I think he got Will fucked up in the game. That damn story that he told is the reason why Will did not try to wake himself up from the possession nightmare.
Oh, just great say that.
Fooled in, yeah. And also that fucking story that he told. I'm sorry, Bob. You sound like fucking Pennywise. I need you to not. Just don't. That's a wrap. He got that kid caught up in the game.
Well, the thing is, Bob doesn't know everything that happened. So I think he was trying to help him. Hey, you confront your fears. You don't run from them, which is something you would tell a normal kid about normal things. So Bob doesn't know all this bullshit is real. So I think he was trying to help, and he's trying to connect with Joyce's kids, and he really loves Joyce. And so Bob's my boyfriend goal. Joyce is my mom goals. Bob is my boyfriend goals. So I don't know. I give him a pass. He tried.
I don't know. I feel him.
They wouldn't have got where they got.
Right, I feel him, but Rudy got Will caught up in the game, and I love Samwise Gamgee. However, your nerd did not do you any good during this season.
Later. He helped.
It did help later. Yes, I agree.
That advice
Once he actually knows what's happening, his advice and everything is on point. The only reason his advice isn't on point right now is because he doesn't know the whole story.
Right.
Which isn't his fault or their fault. It's just shit that happens.
I get it, but he's another Steve to me. He knew that shit was not really gonna last. Like, he put it out there so fast. Like, well, let's move to Maine. I mean, my parents are about to sell their house. I love everything about you. But he made it a point to point out that when they were in high school, Joyce had no fucks to give about him.
Oh no, he was the
Supposedly,
nerd.
she didn't know who he was. So you've been thirsty all these years, and now you think you found your in, and you just trying to pile it on, and we should do this, we could do this, we could be this. Like, no, Samwise, slow your roll, calm the fuck down.
Nah, Bob was on his Rudy shit there, where he should have been on his Samwise Gamgee shit.
Exactly. Samwise was a hell of a lot more cautious than Rudy.
I think you guys are looking at it wrong when it comes to Joyce, because the thing is, Joyce, if you remember the first season when she talks to Hopper, and they're talking about how they were wild kids, they were out ditching school, they were out having sex, doing all this stuff, right? Obviously, Bob was the nerd, but the thing is, you're a different person when you're in high school. You have different priorities when you're in high school. So she ended up getting knocked up by this douchebag. And she ended up having these two kids. She made bad choices when she was in high school. Now she's an adult. Now she's a mother. Now you have different priorities. You have different ideals of what you want in a partner. And so, like, I was a wild child. But now I think of things and I'm like, okay, maybe I would have fucked with you when I was single and I only had myself to worry about. Because you're fun. There's passion. But you know what? I'm not fucking with you now. I got 2 kids. I got to worry about them. You're not good for them. You're not good for me. So I think that's where Joyce is. Bob is good for her because he's good for her kids. And it is a form of love. It's just not like the exciting, passionate love you would have if you're just thinking of yourself. But it's still valid to me. It's still very valid. In fact, it might be more valid because it's not just about you. And Joyce is a great mom, so I think that's why she picked Bob.
Preach on, girl.
Speaking of which, this calls into question for me, Nancy and Mike's mom, because I really don't understand how their dad even got her. And it makes me think that she was in a little bit of a rebellious stage. And she got pregnant before she was supposed to. And the right thing to do at that time was to get married and have a family. Because you look at their personalities, the way he is and the way she is now, it don't match up. Like, how does a guy like him get a girl like her? It doesn't.
She's decent looking.
That's why I'm pretty sure next season at some point in time, she's going to cheat on him. It might be with Billy. It might be with somebody else. But I don't see her staying faithful because Mike and Nancy's dad is about some fuck shit. Seriously. He's a weak-ass dude.
Yeah, you know what I thought, though, about Bob in the beginning? Because I seen, before I even watched the first episode, you see a trailer where Bob's in scrubs and he's running down the hallway. Well, we know what ends up happening with it. But at first, I really was thinking that Bob was like one of these CIA motherfuckers put in there to, pretty much spy on Joyce and make sure she isn't doing anything that goes against the agreement they had of not bringing any of this up. Like, I really thought Bob was like, undercover.
I didn't get that gist, but I can see where you pull that from.
Lob, did you give your rating?
I think I did. I think I gave it an 8.5.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
A and
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just making sure. Yeah, me, I don't know. I think I'd have to go a little lower than the first episode. Probably give like a 7 out of 10. Eggers, just due to the fact that like I liked 11's journey on like trying to survive and things, but this was, if anything, I thought maybe drugged just a little too much. It might have just been this episode out of all of them, just for the fact, they had to take a lot of time to show Elle's story when she's in the woods and shit. Because there's really not that much that goes on in this episode. Like, there's a lot of, I guess, like personal things that come about, but there's not a lot of like action so much in this one. It's more like shit unfolding.
Speaking of which, I don't remember if I asked this earlier, but how did Hopper know to start leaving stuff in the woods for her? That
see,
baffles my
that was
mind.
never.
Who did it
That was
last season that left it in the box? Was it him or Mike?
I thought it was Mike.
I thought it was Mike too. The end of last season, that little box is out there. I think Mike left the food in there at first, and then it
No,
was
I
Hopper.
think-
It was Hopper.
Was it?
Yeah, Mike thought he saw her through his window. He did see her, but I don't think he really got confirmation that it was her because she was so far away looking in. But then all we saw was Hopper leaving stuff, and Elle came and got it. But then when Elle revealed herself to him, it didn't seem like Hopper knew she was actually out there. He just started leaving stuff. So I don't know.
It was
I'm
like a
confused on
memorial
that.
that the kids possibly made, and Hopper knew about it. So I think he was like just leaving his like 2 cents of food. I'm guessing that point in time in that season 1, and then when he turns around and finds like 11, I think that's how it's supposed to connect. That's how I saw it. I could be wrong. So I don't think they ever answered that. Like, why did he went over?
Yeah, they never answered that. But I mean, you could be right. It'd be interesting to see.
The only thing I could think of is that he set that box up out there because Nancy and Jonathan maybe told him about the porthole that and put the box out there and was putting food in there just in case maybe she came out of that portal or whatever. That's the only explanation I can think of. But they never actually tell you what makes him start doing it or what makes him think she'll be in that particular spot. But that's the only thing I could think of is he knows there was an opening there because of Nancy and Jonathan. So he just tried his luck. Like maybe if she comes out, she might need food. He's got those daughter issues, so he did that.
Okay. So with that being pretty much the last scene, or like it's part of episode 2, and we've all given our ratings. We'll move on to the third and final episode of this stream, and the title of this episode / chapter is called "The Pollywog," and the synopsis reads: Dustin adopts a strange new pet, and 11 grows increasingly impatient. A well-meaning Bob urges Will to stand up for his fears, like we were just talking about. So, what was I gonna say? Yeah, that's where we get Dustin, where he tells his mom that he's got his little Ghostbusters trap rigged so it shakes, because he actually puts Dart in that to sneak him in the house. And I think it was funny how he was trying to explain to his mom. He's like, "Oh yeah, look," and he's like showing out like shakes. But then yeah, it gets to the point we're talking about with 11 and Hop, him not sticking to his word or what he says, and tries to give like 11 some interaction with another human being instead of sitting at home all day by herself. But I think when it comes to 11's abilities, I think that was a plus for her, because you notice all the scenes they show where she's at home by herself, she's literally like practicing her like abilities, like how she's turning the TV channels and shut, like, where it's not necessary. So even if she doesn't realize or doing it on purpose, she's actually making her abilities even stronger because she has nothing else better to do but to mess around with shit and move it around with her mind. And this is the time where we see when Hop comes home and he's all pissed off, and she literally like goes balls deep in the house, throwing shit, slamming stuff, busting out windows. She's like stopping him from like being able to move and shit. It was like the first time we really got to see, other than like when she found the Demogorgon and everything, like how much more in tune she is with her powers. And I thought that was pretty cool. How did you guys feel about that whole situation where she starts wigging out on Hop because he like pretty much is getting like, you know what I mean? He's yelling at her and you know, trying to make her feel like, you know, she should be that stupid, and you know, people are gonna end up noticing her, and then it caused them up for trouble. So did you think this maybe she was acting too bratty in that scene, or do you think she had reason to, you know, snap out like she did? Let's start with LavLav this time.
I completely understand. First of all, she's like a new teenager, so she's gonna be emotional, but she's there by herself, and Hop is her only physical contact with another person. So I think it's more important. I'm one of those people. If you tell me you're gonna be here at a certain time, like be here at that time. It irritates the shit out of me when people don't do what they say. So I can understand that part of her, but like since he's the only connection she has, it makes something like that like 100 times more important, because she's gonna be sitting there watching the clock for what was it, 7 o'clock or 5:30 or whatever time he told her. She's gonna be there watching the clock, and he's not just 5 minutes late or 15 minutes late. He's like hours late, and she's depending on him, and he's being very unreliable. They show him be late lots of times. This was really important to her, and he just forgot. So she's a teenager, and the fact that she's relying on him so much, and this means so much to her, is why that massive tantrum happens. And while a normal teenager would be screaming and slamming doors, like with Al, it's the freaking cabin exploding or whatever, the windows exploding. So I get it. I understand where she's coming from. I kind of sympathize with Hopper too. I mean, he's got a lot on his plate, but this is something where I think he's out of his element. He doesn't realize how important these things that are little, like they're really very, very important to Al, because he's her only contact. So, yeah, I sympathize with Al more than Hopper in this case, I guess.
Yeah, I see on here too with the way the scenes go, and you see like how she gets angry, you know, and she tells him how many days she's been stuck there. But then it kind of starts showing flashbacks where 11 ends up finding out that it's Hop leaving the food, and then he ends up, you know, revealing her presence to him, and then he takes her to, like you said, his grandfather's old cabin, and then he pretty much seems to me, anyways, that he's actually going there after, you know, after work or whatever, and living there with her. Because at first I thought that was his house from this first season, and I was like, no, his house wasn't in the woods like that, and I think it was like a trailer. But it wasn't all back in the cut in the trees like that. And then when I realized like it's in the woods and shit, I was like, oh, this must be, you know, a totally different place. But I didn't catch it at first. And then what'd you call it? This is the episode 2 where Nancy and Jonathan they resolve to tell Barb's parents the truth about her disappearance, which we pretty much went over, but I can't remember because I only went back and watched this episode like halfway through. Is this the episode where they get they're in the park and the people take them, or is that later on? You guys remember?
I believe that was later on.
Yeah, that was later on.
Okay, I was just making sure. But yeah, the Joyce also ends up seeing the tape from Halloween night, and it actually shows, you know, what Will is seeing, the image, and they end up finding out it was the things, I guess, were coming from the upside down. But what did you guys how'd you guys think when it came to the what you call it, the way that they go about Dart in the school? Like, remember, they find them, they're starting to fight. Like, the question really is, do you think it was smart of Dustin to even try bringing that to school? You know, he's a kid, he is excited because he has this little, he's all into science, and, you know, nobody's probably seen one of these. But I thought it was really irresponsible. But how'd you guys think he went about it? Maybe is the question about trying to keep him from the other people in the group. We got Alicia.
I think Dart's his introduction was sound, but then once we got to this episode, it reminded me very much of Audrey 2 and the Grow For Me scene in Little Shop of Horrors, because he pretty much almost tripled his size in the moltings that he went through between when we first saw him and by the end of this episode. I think it was irresponsible for Dustin to bring him to school. I mean, we all know, it's been established that Mike's house is the hangout house. Why not schedule a meeting later to figure out what the hell's going on and where this thing came from, instead of taking it into a public setting where anything could happen? And like we saw, they ended up having to go on a find me mission because of it. So I think it was, they needed to incorporate Max a little bit into the whole company with how they do their campaigns in Dungeons and Dragons, but they could have easily done that at Mike's house, or even change the location to where Dustin said, I need y'all to meet me at my house right now. It's important. And we could have had it all there. But that didn't happen the way it I think it should have. So, meh.
And I didn't like his face little sister.
What about you, BBM?
Now, this question has to be asked again. I'm not sure if you asked me the question about, is this about the...
How'd you feel about how Dustin handled
bringing
the
us to school, right? Bringing Dart to school.
Yeah, like how do you think he hit? Do you think it was stupid?
Because again, way it played out, like it basically got out of the room, so it could have really just went anywhere.
Yeah, mostly would be like the question is like, he say how he finds it. Do you think he should have came to the group? You know, these guys being his best friend is like, look, I found them, or you know, he really went about it real selfish, because then I understand why. Like, he's looking at his other friends and they kind of pair up with each other, and then now that Max is there, Lucas has his little pair up, and it's like Dustin, I guess, feels alone. So he probably thought, you know, having his pet, but I think he went about it stupid too. So you're in agreement, huh?
Like, it was smart that first he actually do like research on it to see if it's actually, you know, what actual, like, what is it? I think he said it was like either a lizard or a tadpole or something. It was like one or the other. You know, so first he had to like figure out like what was it first, and then he introduced it to the group, and he also actually allowed like Max on it as well. You know, but it's like still stupid. And again, like him just like picking it up, but again, just bringing it over to school is ridiculous even more. But like, I don't see how it was like selfish at all, in my opinion, though.
Now,
like,
do you guys think about when the molding, I guess they call it, when it keeps shedding and stuff? Is that happening because every time he feeds? Is that what I'm getting from this? Like, when he feeds, he pretty much grows like rapidly and then has to shed his skin to, you know, keep growing.
That's what it seemed like, because we only saw it every time after it would feed on something, just like after Audrey 2. When Audrey 2 got enough of that blood in him, then it grew. And that's what it seemed like to happen with Dart.
What about you, Love? You think you agree? Do you think that whole molding process is due to him every time he has a meal? It like makes him rapidly grow.
That's what it looks like. I mean, every time he would eat, we'd find a thing of skin, that gross skin. So yeah. And he was growing way too fast. Like, it happens in a matter of days. He's like growing crazy fast. So yeah, I don't understand Dustin and all this. I mean, I get it. He's got that scientific mind and stuff. But after everything these kids have been through together, him lying to his friends to hide this, is really crazy to me. Like, why would you do that after everything you guys have been through? You know there's monsters out there. You hear Will say, like, he's heard this thing before. Like, I was channeling Mike through that whole, when it came to, what is it? Dirt or whatever that thing's name is. I was channeling Mike through it. I was like, hit that son of a bitch with a bat. Like, no. I was totally against this little lizard thing. So, I mean, he does kind of help at the end, but it doesn't. There's just some things, I guess I'm one of those people, there's just some things you don't mess with. And weird little creatures from the upside down, you don't mess with them. You don't lie to your friends after you've been through all this stuff for some weird little creature that you don't know what it is. So yeah, I thought the whole Dustin thing, I didn't get Dustin this season and his thought process.
And we're all just muted. But yeah, I think I was next.
Oh shit, I forgot I was in here. Oh man. Yeah, go ahead, BBM.
So it's like, I think it is like it's growing after it feeds, because it's like, I know this was a slug that was that Will chucked up wherever, and like it started to grow eventually or slowly, but apparently after it was like feeding more, it began to change whatever and transition. But even then, it's like we saw in season 1 that slug thing came out of the dead body of Barbara, and that's why we also saw those slugs from the upside down like later on. But it's like the Demogorgon, according to that head scientist Dupapa, it was like the Demogorgon like took people. So it's like when it took people, did it too like possibly like fed on whatever bodies that were in the upside down somewhere? I don't know, but that's just a far stretch I'm making for it to make sense, unless it was just simply just growing on its own. I'm not 100% sure. Because I sort of wonder, is that the same one slug that, you know, William chucked up at the end of season 1, or has he always been chugging up these freaking slug things?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, and another scene that we pretty much kind of went over, this is the scene with Bob is driving Will to school, and this is when he gives him that speech about how he had these reoccurring nightmares, I guess is how he put it. And it was I guess he said by facing the frightening aspect of his dream and telling it to just go away. And it's like we talked about earlier, like Bob is only really, I mean, they put it in your, like, throw it in your face a million times during the season about how smart Bob is. Like, even with the him having to decipher that map of the upside down. So it's like, it's not because he's stupid, but he's pretty much going with the information he's been given. So, of course, if he knew that this thing that kept happening was a monster, I'm pretty sure he would have had a sound enough mind to be like, just face it and tell it to go away, and it'll leave. So I guess, I mean, we can go around how we thought about Bob, and do you just think he was, you know, he meant good, he was just trying to help out because he cares for his mom and his 2 boys? or you think it was just him being naive and thinking you can just tell something to go away or not deal with it, that it'll just eventually go away? Sorry,
Well,
Alicia.
Can I start? I want to talk about Bob.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think, because I think this is the episode 2 where he talks to Will's mom, and he had told her about the video where it looked like kids were picking on Will, and then and Joyce is like, I'll kill them. I will kill them. I'm gonna find them and I'm gonna kill them. And she's like all mom mode, right? And he tells her, like, see, this is like something I love about you. You're a fighter. You stand up to things. You fight. And he's like, I was never a fighter. I just would run away, and I would just get my ass whooped. So I think this whole thing with Will is that he doesn't have all the information, and he knows when you don't fight, you always end up the victim. He's like, this one time with this fear, I stood up, I faced it, I fought it, and it went away. So to him, I think he is trying to save Will, like the misery that he went through. Because he sees Will kind of like he sees himself in Will. Will's a little nerdy kid. Like even Joyce says it in the first season. Will's not like me. When she's talking to Hopper, she's like, he's not like me. He's not like you. He's not like most. He's like a sensitive kid, and he gets trampled on. So I think Bob sees that in him. He's like, you're not a fighter. You're a smart kid. So he's like, people like us need to learn how to fight, so that we don't get trampled on, so that we don't end up like prisoners of our fear. So I think that's what Bob was trying to do, because he didn't actually know that, hey, this is like a real physical monster. I think if he knew that, he would have told him, hey, run, buddy. There are some fights that we cannot win, So I think that's what Bob was doing. And I think it's because the stuff that he admires in other people, being a fighter, that he wants to try to get Will to do before he ends up kind of like he did his childhood. So to me, that's how I saw that whole conversation. And I think the reason Will listened to Bob is because he saw that Bob was coming from a genuine place and also a genuine experience. And it worked for Bob, so he thought maybe it'll work for him. Of course, he's a child. He wasn't thinking like, hey, but Bob, your monster was fake. My monster is kind of real. So, he didn't connect that bit of it. But I wanted to ask you guys, have you heard the theory that Bob is actually from Derry? And that's why he had that clown fear? I thought that was a really cool theory. But
yeah. The moment I heard that clown, I was like, yeah. That's definitely has to be Pennywise.
Is that actually a thing?
Yeah,
I have not heard that, but you know what? It totally makes sense.
Yeah, because
like I said earlier, Bob sounded exactly like it when he was telling that damn story.
The theory is that Bob is from Derry, and that that whole story he said where he's like, I'm not afraid of you, go away. That's why, because you know how the new movie, if you don't fear it, it can't get you. So that's why it worked.
And he was trying to take Joyce to Maine too, and that's what.
Right. And Maine is like the staple state for Stephen King to put his fuck shit characters in. That is so interesting. Like Bob could have been a survivor of Derry after the Magnificent Seven won their first round against it, and his parents moved. So that's how he knew Joyce in high school. That's interesting. I like that. I like that a lot.
Did you want to say on BBM about how Bob handled the whole, telling it to go away thing, just knowing the information that he had? Or do you think it was just, that's how a lot of people deal with shit? They just, close their eyes and that they think that if they don't deal with it, they think it'll just go away.
How I take it, I do agree with Lav. It's like coming from Bob's perspective, he doesn't know anything. Us, the audience, we know it's like bad advice because we know it's real. But again, like Will, he needed like some type of like encouragement or anything. Even though like his brother at one point was trying to say, "Hey, is everything all right?" They keep on calling, Zombie Boy and whatnot, though. But like Jonathan really didn't understand, even though he kind of should. But with Bob, he just didn't. So for me, it was good advice that he actually did give him. Though at one point, I just kind of like wish that Joyce would have told Bob something, but I don't know if that would have scared Bob away or he actually would just like believe it, whatever, so he can just continue with the relationship. But I don't know.
How about you, Alicia? I mean, we pretty much talked about this earlier, but you agree with BBM and Love?
What was the original question? I'm sorry.
About how Bob handled the situation in the car with Will, pretty much, taking the whole thing with just saying, get away and close your eyes and thinking if you do that, whatever it is that's bothering you, just gonna go away.
You know what? In that scene, I think the Duffer Brothers were very clever in calling back Sean Astin's past projects, specifically with the Goonies and with Lord of the Rings. There were moments in both of those stories where Sean Astin had a good little monologue about his assessment for how things were. And in this situation, it was a good thought what he had, but he didn't go into this situation knowing everything that he should have known to make a correct assumption. To me, he got Will caught up in the game because Will heard that story and was like, okay, I can just tell it to go away. I can defeat it. And it did not work. And again, this ties into, his character being from Derry. In Derry, that would have worked because belief and willpower is a thing that helps protect you. But here in this town, just because you tell something to go away and you think that it will, it doesn't work that way. So he fucked around and he gave some good advice, but it did not help Will at all. It actually is the reason that Will stayed in that trance and got himself possessed by the Mind Flayer, and he became the spy after that. And it almost seemed like from the very beginning of the season, episode 1, that something extra was going on with Will, but we didn't know exactly what it was until we saw this tie-in. Like the last scene of the episode, if I remember correctly, is the Mind Flayer completely possessing Will. He had thoughts on him. The Mind Flayer had Will in its sights, but it didn't quite know whether it could use him or not. But because of this final scene and Will trying to stand his ground, it blew up in his face because he got caught up in the game, and that is because of Bob. And if I remember correctly, Bob's last name is Newbie. And when you're a noob and you come into some serious fandom shit, you usually end up getting fucked up because you don't fully understand what is going on in the game. And this was a situation where Bob did not really know what was happening. He thought it was just, PTSD, some type of stress that happened in this boy's childhood, and it was so much more than that. And Will end up getting possessed, and all this other fuck shit happened after. And it's just, I won't go into everything and how it ties in. We'll wait until we get to the later episodes. But those are my thoughts on Will and Bob. Bob could have been better. Sign-wise, damn it. You knew better, but you led this kid. Basically, you were Dumbledore leading him to the slaughter.
Right. And I think a lot of times with stuff like that is like a person's pride. Like even what you were saying about being like a noob, say just in the Game of Thrones or like a Song of Ice and Fire, the books. Like I don't have a problem with somebody not knowing everything. Like if it isn't, not everybody's gonna know every little thing, but what makes me kind of like tick is when they come in acting as if And then when you're talking about something, they, when they have no clue about it, you're like, why wouldn't you just say, look, I don't know anything about that. Can you, like, tell me about it, instead of coming in like you're the knower of all knowledge. And then because you don't want to, you have too much pride, instead of just saying you don't understand the situation, you just go about the way you know best to handle the situation you had. You can't assume that your situation was easier or worse than the person you're trying to give information to handle that said situation. So, but yeah, like the pretty much final scene of episode 3, when they're in the school and they're looking for Dart, and that's when, speaking of the trance, when Will ends up taking his advice and walking out, and the shadow monster pretty much, made him into a spy. And I guess the last question to do with this is, did you think that, it was pretty clever how, the Duffer Brothers and everybody that's involved with this made, like, the whatever that creature is in the Upside Down, uh, you know, go inside Will and used him as a spy? Like, how did you guys feel about the way they did that? Let's go at Alicia first this time.
I think it was pretty clever. And I think that the Mind Flayer character ended up trying to get to Will because Will had already been in the Upside Down. Like was said in previous episodes, Will said that it didn't want him. It wanted everyone else because Will had already been there. It had basically already coughed up that slug. It had coughed up a child of the Upside Down already. So Will was that connection. And I think it's, future cast, it's a foreshadowing to why we saw the Mind Flayer at the very end of this over the gym where 11 was, because Will was on its radar simply because it was a connection to our world. But now at the end, 11 is that connection because it knows that 11 has those psionic powers that it could really use. And if you look into Dungeons and Dragons and the mythology behind the Mind Flayer, that's what it does. It looks at other characters that have extra abilities and it takes them over and uses them to then progress into a Lich Mind Flayer. I think that's what it's called. And it makes it more powerful and steadfast in where it is, and it helps to take over that world even more. So the way that whole thing ended with Will is very, very interesting to me, and I'm waiting to see how they play that out in season 2. Like when I won't get into it because I'd be jumping ahead a whole lot of episodes, but it makes me see foreshadowing for what comes at the end of the series.
Okay, BBO, how do you think? What's your thoughts on how they went about making this shadow creature end up getting into Will and using him as the Upside Down world spy?
For me, it was done brilliant because it kind of just proved a theory that, like, this creature was like, it wanted Will from the beginning. It didn't want to kill Will as opposed to Barbara. It's like, that was always like one of my questions, like, why did it kill Barbara, but it didn't kill Will? And Will was there before her. So it was just a plan that it just wanted to, like, impregnate Will, make him like a connection to the Upside Down, wanted it to actually go back. Because even when Nancy and Jonathan went to, like, I don't think Jonathan went there. I think when Nancy went there, that Demogorgon was even like going after her. Maybe it wanted to even kill her. But like with this Will, it just wanted him to stay alive. So just to like live even further and just possessing him. I think that was like the goal from Jumpstart.
All right. What about you, LavLav? Did you like how they went about using the whole Will as a spy for the Upside Down?
Yeah, I thought it worked well because Will, since he was over there so long, when he came back, it was like he didn't ever fully come back. He was like 1 foot in the upside down and 1 foot in our reality. So I thought like the mind flayer or whatever just took a chance and hey, what if I go in here? What's gonna happen? I'll just go in here, see what they're doing, see if they're catching on to my tunnels, to everything I've got going on, all my plans. And I wanted to ask you guys, it seems to me that the more feelings Will has, the more 11 uses her powers, and then now we know that 8 is out there using her powers. Are all those things helping the upside down seep into our world? Because that's kind of like the feeling I'm getting. Every time they kind of mess with this thing, it gets bigger and bigger. We know that 11 opened that portal to Hawkins. So, and then what Tony said earlier about her just, she's bored in the cabin just using her powers to switch the TV or whatever. Was all that helping with the tunnels, helping it seep through? Like, and then we have Will over here who's like half in, half out. And then he gets turned into the spy. Like, all this stuff to me seems like the good guys are actually kind of helping bring that into our world without knowing about it. I just want to know if you guys have any feelings about that.
For me, it was just like 11 from jump. Like, she was one who opened the damn portal. I don't think they never even closed it. Because like in the beginning, like first episode, they were like trying to like burn everything, but it couldn't. Kept just growing back. So they were just doomed from the get-go. But I was like, at least when they finally close that part, like near like later episodes, they actually just do it. But it's like, yeah, it was like because of 11. I think she even like kind of like blamed herself for it though too. At one point,
it was more of a thing of humans fucking up. I think, you know, the scientists got too giddy, and like, you know, Loud and Swain, Matthew Modine, his character was like, you know, don't run from it. It's trying to contact you. It's looking at you as like a power plant. And I'm like, dude, you don't know what the fuck this thing is trying to do. This is humans being too curious about shit that they don't understand. And look at all the fuck shit that it has caused.
Dustin, are you listening?
Exactly. And Dustin even says it, you know, I'm a curious mind, and these books are my paddles in my boat of curiosity. Well, you know what, little boy, you need to calm the fuck down, because this is not some shit that needs to be in our world. And Mike was right. You should fucking kill it.
I need my paddles, AK. I need my paddles.
Fuck that. Your paddles are going to kill everyone. Fuck that bullshit. No. Get it together, Dustin. Get it together.
All right. Well, that's the end of that episode. And the third final one. You guys have any thoughts before we give our ratings and get on out of here for this stream?
A couple of pinpoints that I had put down. Let's see. We talked about how Dart looked like Audrey too, and we still need to know how Hopper started leaving the food in the woods for 11, and also 11's tantrums. Like, she really needed to have some chill this episode. Like, I understand because of how she was raised and where she was raised. You know, that this is why Hopper is trying to teach her context in English and try to teach her how to tell the time. Like, it's not 5:15, it's 5:15. I understand she doesn't have that knowledge, and she needs to function in the real world. But she's trying to like speed shit along because she's seeing the world only from her eyes. And it's very askew the way she sees things, because she hasn't had like the full world experience. Like, people skills are not her strong point at all, and she needs to work on that. Like, I could feel Hopper on everything he was trying to do, but on the flip side of that, I can also see it how 11 was like, you know, I'm cooped up in this place like forever and I can't leave. I can't get out. Well, what is my life basically? You know, when am I going to be able to go see my boo thing and be able to have some type of normalcy with him? She doesn't know that the danger is as real as it is. And I think that's something to definitely be explored. And again, Dustin having to go to the library and not have Google as a resource is awesome because, you know, it wasn't too long ago. I remember when I was in high school, we didn't have Google like these damn kids have today. We had to go to the library and look into these things that were called encyclopedias. Some of you may not know what they are, but they were the epitome of knowledge when I was growing up. And let's see. And again, I think Sean Astin, you know, Rudy, he got Will caught up in the game. Will could have probably resisted a little bit more than he did until he heard that story about Sean, you know, facing his fears and his nightmares and whatnots. And that just seemed to me to draw him in. It set him up to stand there and be possessed, but that could just be, you know, my random tinfoil. I do appreciate that theory that was brought up, though, that Sean Astin's character may be from Derry. It fits very well.
Okay. Well, what did you give rating for this third episode?
For this third episode, I will stick with I'll say a solid 8, maybe 8.5 egos. It was a good episode. I liked it. Cool.
BBM, do you have any final thoughts on this episode before you give your rating?
I think I can't. Thing is, I can hardly remember episode 3. So when we continue with these next episodes, yeah, I gotta like rewatch. Because when I did another rewatch, I went up to like episode 2 and then I stopped. Should have continued again, but I had to give this like a 9 egos because it was like at the point of episode 3, I was like, you know what? These like 2 episodes a day ain't gonna cut it. I'm just gonna binge it all, the rest of it, the same day. Because this is when it actually started getting damn good, especially with that cliffhanger ending. For which we call it, well, being possessed. That was just excellent. Not excellent in a good way, the way I put it there, but just it was just crazy to see, and I wouldn't know what's gonna happen next.
What'd you rate it, BBM?
9 egos, man. 9 egos.
All right, cool. LavLav, you got any thoughts or what's your rating?
Yeah, I would give it an 8.5 again with some more whipped cream and some cherry. Stack it up like Hopper likes to do it. I thought it was really good. That ending, I guess maybe I'm the only one. I thought for a second it might work. I thought Bob's advice might work and he might be able to tell it to go away. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but I liked it because then when it didn't happen and he got possessed or whatever he got, I was like, oh no, poor Will can't catch a break. So I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's a good point because when you were just saying how you thought it might have worked, it's like you know, you don't realize the difference in who their so-called, you know, bad dream / monster is until you see Will try to use that method. And I'm like sitting there because at first I didn't think about it. So there are a lot of things where they say, you know, if you're having bad dreams or you think you're seeing a monster in your closet, you just, you know, close your eyes and say it's not real. But so it didn't hit me at first. But then when you see this humongous ass monster thing from a world they have no clue about still, like really why it is, and you're like, that shit ain't gonna work here. So it's, yeah, like I didn't notice it at first, but I think with this episode, I'll probably give it an 8. I mean, it was pretty good. I thought it was done pretty good. I liked the part where what was I gonna say? I lost what I was gonna say. Damn it. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, the part where watches the tape and she sees the Joyce sees the image or Will's vision. So it's like they start all they really look at it now, like the people on the outside looking in, is like he's having these little like flashback episode things, and it's like the first time that someone other than Will, and especially for his mom, like to see what he's had, what's in these episodes, and it kind of paints more of a picture to do something about it. But with that, I think we're gonna get wraps up. We've been going well over 2 hours. I guess we'll start off by guys giving your outros and tell everybody where you can find you. We'll start with Alicia.
Yeah, well, it's always fun to sit and talk random nerd shows with my people, LavLav, BBM, my brother Last Hearth, aka Tony. If y'all don't know my boy's name, it's always fun to be here. Thank you for having me on. You can find me on everyone else's channel before you find me on mine, honestly, unless it's Game of Thrones season. If you like The Walking Dead, check out the Walking Bread channel. I voiced Michonne as of issue 52, and I think we're up to issue 110 right now. So, go check that out. My boys Josh and Alex are doing some awesome things. If you randomly like fan fiction, I do write some fan fiction for Glee, Twilight, and a few other fandoms. Check me out. Hit up fanfiction.net or Archive of Our Own under the name Diana Rose. You'll find all of my stuff. It's not great, but if you like random fan fiction, you'll probably dig some of my stories. Don't listen to her. She's biased. She's my friend. She has to say that.
The 100 fan fiction. You gotta love it.
Okay. I'm still gonna say that BBM is a little bit biased too.
It's great. It's not a black thing.
Really though. Really. That was my roommate Enid. Y'all probably know her from my Game of Thrones stream. She's always off screen giving random commentary. Shout out Enid. But yeah, just check me out. Yeah, leave a review if you feel the story that you read was awesome. And again, thank you for having me on, my brother Last Hearth. BBM Live is always cool to hang with y'all. And I believe next Saturday we'll be on LavLav's channel to talk about episodes 4 through 6 or 7, one of the two, whatever the next 3 episodes are. And we're probably going to wrap up the Stranger Things season 2 stream on my channel with episodes 8 and 9, something like that. But set your notifications. We will be around, and it's, again, a blast hanging with y'all. Deuces.
About you, BBM, tell everybody where they can find you.
So again, thank you for having me on this channel. Starting it off with the Stranger Things from episode 1 to 3. I believe almost majority of his Tony streams is basically with me, so it's yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere. I don't know where I am not at, and I'm probably, if I'm not there, I'm going to be there guest starring soon. But yes, love talking with, LavLav, the lover of Bob. I know I'm going to see, when the Funko Pop of Bob is made, Lav is going to be on that. She will be. Before I even go into a store to buy it, she's going to be like, Broke, I already got it. Where's yours? But yes, and of course, AK, the breaker of trolls, the Lexa fangirl, the one who questions children being outside and when the street lights are freaking on, what's up with you?
I'm just saying. Where was the little cowboy's parents? There were no houses anywhere near that road where he met Hopper. He should not have been there.
I'm telling you, the energy company sent him out on a special mission to find 11 because he's number 5. He'll be able to find her.
Fuck that. Like Nancy said, it's all bullshit. And again, hashtag Lexa deserved better.
I'm telling you, you're going to see him in one of them little Men in Black suits next season. He out there on missions. Go ahead, LavLav. Tell her where you can find you.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. I don't think I've ever been on your channel, so it was really fun to be on your channel for the first time. And as always, I love hanging out with my BBM and my beautiful Alicia Kingston. And her fan fiction is amazing. It's not a black thing, and it is not a biased thing. It's amazing. She's a really great writer. So check it out.
Wait. It's not a black thing.
It's not a black thing.
See, this is what I was talking about earlier. When you have a black friend in your company, they will call you out on your nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But I love you. I love you, Lav. You know I'm just fucking with you.
They're saying it's not a black thing. I'm agreeing with her.
Right, you know I'm just fucking with you. I love you, LavLav, and I appreciate that you and BBM even try to read my fan fiction, because you know my drabbles are weird. My mind like gender bends everything, and I'm just a strange individual when you get into my imagination. So I really do appreciate that y'all have read my stuff and given me honest, cool reviews about it. I appreciate it.
Because it's good. And not
it is good. It is good. I enjoy it.
I still say y'all are biased, but I love you anyway.
So yeah, you can find me on my channel LavLav. Sometimes I do show reviews, and I do book reviews. I only do show reviews if they have books usually, but Stranger Things is my exception. So yeah, if you're into horror, if you're into books, then check out my channel. And thank you guys for coming. And I wish I could have seen the chat, but it didn't work out.
And I need you to get that that book comparison for the 13th Warrior and Eaters of the Dead out. And also, before we jump out, I want to give a shout out to everybody that was in the chat with us. JW Flux, Omen Eno. I think Richie Rich Shatwell was in here earlier. Pete Easy, my homeboy, was in there. Eduardo Blanco, thank you for coming out. I'm Jake Cruz. I think I saw him in for a little bit. Anybody that I missed, I apologize. The chat doesn't let us go all the way up to the beginning sometimes. Thank y'all for coming to hang with us. Appreciate you so much. Please come check us out next Saturday. I believe we'll be back on Lav's channel.
Yeah, I just want to say it's been a good stream, you guys. I'm glad everybody came on tonight, and hopefully, you know, as long as everything pans out, we should be here next week. And I'm starting to really get into this Stranger Things. Like, you know, I thought it was good last year, but I like when a story or show kind of like starts piling on the questions on you, because it gives you a lot to, you know, theorize about and to talk about. But yeah, the all these guys' channels are in the description. So if any of y'all wanna, LavLav does really good book reviews. BBM, you know, the master of Funkos, he's always on that shit. And Alicia, I love you. So thanks everybody for coming out tonight, and to people that were in the chat. And until next Saturday, I will talk to you guys later.
Shout out to Dirty D, OTDA, that came in, and I believe we saw JD the Dragon, my brother, also in the spot. So appreciate y'all coming out. Love y'all.
Later.